Chapter 2969. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 12. What did you just say? Can you explain it to me? The Yao family had grabbed Elder Chu by his collar and asked loudly. The Ning family. The Ning family has been exterminated by the Divine Master. The Ning family's divine realm has become a land without an owner. Therefore, our major forces have divided it up. Elder Chu stammered as he carefully reported. Old Man Ning is dead? This is impossible. The Yao family head did not believe Elder Chu's words at all. At this time, the other elders also interrupted to confirm that something had indeed happened to the Ning family. However, the Yao family head still didn't believe him and asked again. What about Lung Ruoxue? She's also dead? Lung Ruoxue is still alive. Elder Chu hurriedly replied. She's still alive, so how could Old Man Ning be dead? Furthermore, didn't Lung Ruoxue say anything when you guys divided up the Ning family's god realm? The Yao family had continued to ask. No, she said that it's her sad place. She didn't want to see it to avoid thinking of her. Elder Chu repeated Lung Ruoxue's words. Idiot. Idiot. You've been tricked. Lung Ruoxue is using retreat to advance, trying to provoke you guys. You guys. Why did he have to provoke that she-devil? Isn't it enough to just obediently guard the Yao clan? When the Yao family had heard this, he roared in exasperation. How could he have such a stupid descendant? One had to know that he had never won a single time when he fought Lung Ruoxue. Was this not enough to warn the clan? Why did he have to provoke Lung Ruoxue? Is that woman really that cunning? Elder Chu was in slight disbelief. It was not that he did not believe the old Grand Madam's words, but he had always looked down on women. He even felt that the Ning family's master must have played a big role in Lung Ruoxue's previous actions of causing the Yao family to be in such a miserable state. Otherwise, he would not have supported the Grand Elder to hit them when they were down. It was because of this that he was skeptical of the old ancestor's words. The depressed Yao family had immediately inquired about the ins and outs of the matter, and after hearing it, he was even more remorseful. I'm finished. This time, he was entangled with Lung Ruoxue. Furthermore, after he found out from Elder Chu that the cat was originally Lung Ruoxue's pet, and was forcefully taken by the Grand Elder, he even felt like killing himself. This aggro pulling was really strong. Was Beastie by Lung Ruoxue's side that easy to get? Now he could be sure that the Yao family's incident was definitely related to that cat. This way, he wouldn't have to seek revenge from the hamster clan. Lung Ruoxue must have been the one who instructed him to do so. The pitiful Lung Ruoxue had to take the blame for Tsong. However, as Tsong's master, there was no difference in pushing Tsong's actions onto Lung Ruoxue. After figuring out the cause and effect, Master Yao led a few important elders to Demon City. As soon as they arrived at the outskirts of Demon City, Azure had already appeared in front of the Yao family head with a smile. Ancestor, this is the cat. Elder Chu immediately pointed at Song and shouted. Little old man, you still recognize me. Song Xiao said to Elder Qiu, may I know who you are? The Yao family head was very polite. He couldn't tell the cat's strength. Thanks Song. Long time no see, little fellow. Song raised his little paw and greeted Patriarch Yao. Of course, the prerequisite was that Lung Ruoxue and the others had to let bygones be bygones. The more he thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. The Yao family had clearly suffered losses, so why did he still have to give in to Lung Ruoxue and the others? He was even afraid that they would hold a grudge against him. What was this? However, the Yao family was currently a vulnerable group, so he had no choice but to lower his stance. Although he felt aggrieved, after his expression changed for a moment, the Yao family had raised his smile and said, So it's Senior Tsong. It has indeed been a long time. I heard that you've been in closed-door cultivation. Azure asked kindly, as if he was truly concerned about a junior. Yes. The Yao family had nodded. Then why did you suddenly come out of seclusion? Although you're already a reverent god, you still have to cultivate your mental state. So I really shouldn't have come out of seclusion so early. Azure said in a disappointed tone. The Yao family head was silent. Would he say that he had been woken up by a piece of wood? Would he? After recollecting his emotions, the Yao family head smiled and said, I didn't want to come out of seclusion so soon. but I heard from my clansmen that there was a misunderstanding with Demon City. So I immediately brought them here to apologize. I'm sorry, the few elders said in unison. When Song heard this, he couldn't help but widen his eyes, his face blank. Did they do anything to let me down? The Yao family head knew that the other party was playing dumb, but he didn't know how to respond. Isn't Senior Tsang a Totoro? Elder Chu asked. That's what I used to look like. I can change into whatever I want. Azure smiled evilly. Upon hearing this, everyone, including the Yao family head, was depressed. The meaning of his words was clearly to warn them not to appear in front of Lung Ruoxue and the others. Otherwise, who would know which beast was Senior Tsang's transformation? Senior, can you invite us up for a seat? After half a minute of silence, the Yao family head spoke again. Of course you can, but I'm not sure how popular you guys are. Azure hesitated. Senior Azure, we promise not to cause any trouble. The Yao family had promised. Yes, we'll definitely be good. Elder Chu and the others also expressed their opinions. I see. Then everyone come home with me. Song said in satisfaction. He then teleported and brought the Yao clansmen to the top of the mountain. When he arrived at the Lung family's main house, Master Yao saw Master Ning's figure in the garden. His heart suddenly turned cold. He thought to himself, sure enough, he was right. This old man is still alive and kicking. He was at a loss for what to do with the things his descendants had done. As soon as Elder Chu saw Master Ning, he was dumbfounded. He pointed at Master Ning and asked, Are you a human or a ghost? Your sister. You're the ghost. Even if you become a ghost, you'll still live well. The master of the Ning family roared, and then looked at Song Dao with a bitter face. Senior Azure, why did you bring these people up? Chapter 2970. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 13. They're here to apologize, but I don't think they've done anything wrong to me, so I'm thinking if they've done something wrong to you, so I brought them here. If there's anything you need to settle here, I'll be your judge. Azure said with great interest. Hearing this, Master Ning understood. Senior Tsang. So you just wanted to watch the fun. However, looking at Old Man Yao's devout expression, it was probably not a good show to watch. Master Ning knew why Master Yao had come in person, but he would never take the initiative. If there was anything to say, Old Man Yao had to speak first. The two of them had known each other for many years and understood each other quite well. Seeing that Master Ning did not say anything, Master Yao knew that he had to take the initiative. The Yao family was indeed in the wrong in this matter. In addition, he was extremely unwilling to provoke Lung Ruoxue, so he placed himself in a very proper position. After clearing his throat a few times, the Yao family head said in embarrassment, Old Man Ning, I know that my descendants are in the wrong. They shouldn't have taken advantage of me. I've brought the decision-makers of this incident here and asked them to apologize to you. Give them another chance. Let's just forget about this, okay? Also, don't worry. The Ning family's god domain will still be the Ning family's. We, the Yao family, guarantee that we won't occupy it. Seeing that Master Ning was silent, Master Yao had to add, It doesn't matter. You've already taken it anyway, so don't shoot after the fact. Master Ning didn't give him any face. After hearing this, the anger in the Yao family head's heart surged. At this moment he really wanted to strangle his idiotic descendants to death. They were really a bunch of troublesome things. Why didn't they learn from the other 6 families in the 8 divine regions? One should know that the Yin family of the 8 great divine regions didn't even attend the meeting that the Xiao family had called for. They had made their stand clear when they received the invitation. The family head wasn't present, so they couldn't make the decision. As for the clans that had come, they were like the cunning old man from the Chung family. They didn't want the Ning family's territory at all. Only Elder Chu from the Yao family had foolishly taken away more than half of the territory. Now he had to lower his head and apologize, and he had even provoked Demon City. More importantly, the current situation was quite unfavorable to the Yao family, because Old Man Ning didn't accept their apology at all. Old Man Ning, we've known each other for so many years, can't you give me some face? The Yao family had pleaded. I gave you face, but your Yao family won't give me face? I don't know where your in-law found a member of the Ning family, but he insisted that I was dead and that the Ning family had been annihilated. He gathered all the forces to divide up the Ning family's divine realm. Tell me, how do you want me to give face to your Yao family? The master of the Ning family complained. Calm down, I will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. In fact, our Yao family has also been deceived by the Xiao family, so even if you don't cause trouble for the Xiao family, I won't let them off. Please believe me. The Yao family had said with a good temper. Trust you? Don't tell me you want to silence me? Master Ning looked at Master Yao suspiciously. How is that possible? I've already asked clearly about this matter. The Yao family was indeed deceived by the Xiao family, I swear on my character. Seeing that Master Ning didn't believe him, Master Yao couldn't help but be a little anxious. You want to swear an oath on your character? How much is your personality worth? Do you even have a personality? Master Ning was still disdainful. I can't believe it. Take your descendants back. The Ning family's territory you want to leave is also yours. Take care, I won't see you out. Master Ning directly asked him to leave. Old man Ning, don't be like this. Seeing that the other party was really going to drive him away, the Yao family head hurriedly stopped him. Thanks Godfather, give me some face. Let's see how the Yao family head is going to show his sincerity. At this moment, Lung Ruoxua heard that the Yao family head had arrived and rushed over to join in the fun. Coincidentally, she saw that her godfather was about to chase him away, so she hurriedly pleaded for mercy. Miss Lung, you've come at the right time. I'm very sincere in visiting you this time, so please give me a chance. Seeing that the real master had arrived, the Yao family head immediately heaved a sigh of relief. I can give you a chance, but how does the Yao family head want to perform? Lung Ruoxua asked with a faint smile. Although she was a little angry at the Yao family for adding insult to injury, she clearly didn't want to push the Yao family too far. Therefore, as long as the other party could satisfy her, she naturally wouldn't hold it against the Yao family. After Lung Ruoxua appeared and pleaded for mercy on behalf of Master Yao, Master Ning was so angry that he returned to his room. Old man Ning is really angry with me. Seeing this, the Yao family head couldn't help but smile bitterly. If it was the Yao family head, he would also be angry. Lung Ruoxua said calmly. That's for sure. However, my Yao family has been cheated by the Xiao family this time, so I will never let them off. The Yao family had said with hatred. As far as I know, the Xiao family and you are in-laws. Lung Ruoxua reminded. Then we can't let them go. Not only did the Xiao family deceive us, but they also used the Yao family's name to swindle people, ruining our reputation. So, I will never forgive them. The Yao family head said angrily. When Lung Ruoxua heard this, she couldn't help but think, does your Yao family still have a reputation? However, with Song and Qingju around, she naturally knew that they were telling the truth. Otherwise, she wouldn't have pleaded for mercy on behalf of the Yao family head. However, would those who didn't know really not blame him? If the Yao family wasn't so greedy, how could this have happened? It should be known that other than the Yao family, the other 6 divine domains had also sent people there, but they didn't care about this at all and were just there for show. Only the Yao family had been greedy for the Ning family's divine domain. However, this time, the Yao family head was rather sincere. He apologized nonstop and not only returned the Ning family's territory in the God realm, he even took the initiative to offer a lot of compensation. Of course, he did not dare to mention the rat problem in the Yao family's God realm to Lung Ruoxua. As such, Lung Ruoxua naturally could not be bothered to make a fuss about it. After receiving Lung Ruoxua's forgiveness, the Yao family had finally heaved a sigh of relief. That was really close. He believed that if he didn't personally make this trip, the Yao family and Demon City would probably fight to the death. Fortunately, there was still time. The Yao family had heaved a sigh of relief and brought up Yao Nan's matter, saying that he wanted to bring him back to the Yao family. When Lung Ruoxua heard this, she pointed at Song and said, Yao Nan is Song's, I can't make the decision. The Yao family head was stunned. How could it be Senior Song's? I can let him go with you. Seeing that the topic had changed to him, Azure took the initiative. Thank you, Senior Azure. The Yao family head didn't expect Senior Song to be so easy to talk to, and his heart immediately settled. Chapter 2971. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 14. However, when he saw Yao Nan, he realized that he had been too naive. The Yao Nan that the Yao family head had seen seemed to be mentally normal. His clothes were clean, and there were no wounds on his body. It was clear that he had not suffered any inhuman abuse, but for some reason, Yao Nan had refused to return home with the Yao family head. Nanner be good. Come home with father. After thinking for a moment, the Yao family head patiently coaxed him. I'm not going back, I want to stay here to serve Senior Tsang. Yao Nan carefully peeked at Tsang. He was really afraid that because of his father's arrival, Senior Tsang would vent his anger on him. At that time, wouldn't he have to suffer again? Moreover, it wasn't that he didn't want to go home with his father, but he didn't dare to. Although Senior Tsang had said that he could leave, according to his experience over the past few days, Senior Tsang was most likely just joking. Therefore, he couldn't take it seriously. If he really did, he would be miserable. It was because of the above reasons that he refused to leave. After trying to persuade him to no avail, the Yao family head could only leave with Elder Chu and the others. Before he left, he had specially asked Senior Tsang to teach Yao Nan a lesson if he did anything wrong. As a courtesy, Tsang had also given Chao Ling to the Yao family head. Chao Ling didn't want to leave either. She knew that since she was in the hands of the Yao family, she wouldn't have a good ending. At least she could keep her life here. However, Tsang wasn't as interested in her as Yao Nan, so he threw Chao Ling to the Yao family head without thinking. Dragging Chao Ling, Master Yao was depressed. Even though he had not been able to take Yao Nan away, he had at least resolved his conflict with Lung Ruoxue. He had not come in vain. After the head of the Yao family left, Song Kai looked at Yao Nan with a curious expression and asked with a smile, I really didn't expect that you and the Yao family's brat are actually father and son? We've been father and son for many years. Yao Nan replied uneasily. Upon hearing this, Uncle Long, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but burst into laughter. It was undeniable that Yao Nan had made a lot of fun of them, which was the main reason why they were reluctant to let him go. You're the eldest son of the Yao family head? Lung Ruoxue asked. Yup. Yao Nan nodded, not understanding why Lung Ruoxue would ask such a question. No wonder. Lung Ruoxue understood. The strong would usually favor the eldest. Otherwise, the Yao family head wouldn't have wanted to bring his son back even after Yao Nan had caused such a huge disaster. Even though part of it was to receive punishment, the main reason was probably because he was afraid that Yao Nan would suffer. She hadn't forgotten how the head of the Yao family had inspected Yao Nan from head to toe. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's no wonder, Yao Nan still didn't understand. He looked at Lung Ruoxue in confusion. However, Lung Ruoxue stood up and returned to her room. Song naturally took Yao Nan away. Now he couldn't leave this pistachios. After leaving Demon City, Patriarch Yao didn't return to the Yao family's divine realm. Instead, he went to the Xiao family's territory. As such, the Xiao family was naturally going to be in deep trouble. The head of the Xiao family, who was Chao Ling's father, saw that his daughter had returned. Before he could say anything, he could feel the anger of the Yao family head. Thanks, although he had only seen the image of the Yao family head in the memory crystal, this did not affect his understanding of the Yao family head. When he saw the Yao family's head aggressively coming to his door, he was instantly terrified. Who told you to lie to the forces and say that the Ning family was completely annihilated? Grabbing Master Chao's neck, Master Yao questioned. No one. After struggling for a while, the Xiao family head said with some difficulty, No one? Do you think I'll believe you? If no one had instructed you to do so, would you have dared to deceive so many forces? You even dare to play with our Yao family, you really have some guts. The Yao family head said angrily. He was really angry. He had only been in closed-door cultivation for a few decades, and some people thought that he was easy to bully? How dare he lie to the Yao family and make them hate him? He was unforgivable. Moreover, he had lived for so many years and had seen all kinds of people. Only a ghost would believe that someone as timid as Master Chao had not been instructed by someone. I really didn't. The Xiao family head said stubbornly. No. Then I won't ask anymore. You can go to hell. the Yao family head said coldly. After saying that, he increased the strength of his hand. Cough, cough. No, let me go. Oh, I can't say it, I really can't say it. If I say it, the Xiao family will be exterminated. The Xiao family head, who was already suffocated by the Yao family head, coughed violently and hurriedly said, if you don't tell me, I'll destroy the Xiao family right now. The Yao family head threatened. Woo. All right. I'll tell you. A man in black told me to do this. He's from the Divine Master's estate. The Xiao family head said with a face full of fear. Is everything you said true? The Yao family head asked with uncertainty. Yao family head, I wouldn't dare to lie to you. Whether it's the Divine Lord's estate or the Yao family, our Chao family can't afford to offend either of them. Woo. Let me go. The Xiao family head begged. I don't think you would dare to lie to me. The Yao family had loosened his grip and let go of the Xiao family head. This was because Master Chao's answer was too shocking. He had never thought that everything was actually caused by the Divine Lord's estate. Just what was God Lord Fog Ripple trying to do? Was he trying to sow discord between them and Lung Ruoxue? She had to admit that she had succeeded. If he had not come out of seclusion, the hatred between the Yao family and Demon City would have deepened. However, he didn't want to pick a side at all. To him, the best strategy was to remain neutral and not offend either side. It was because of this that he let go of the Xiao family, who might be the minions of Wuhan, and left with the Yao family. After much consideration, Master Yao still told Lung Ruoxue about this news. Lung Ruoxue did not expect that the Xiao family was actually under Wu Jing's orders. No wonder the rumors were getting more and more outrageous. However, she was very curious. As the rumored female lead, what exactly was Wuhan's mood? It must feel unusual to be spreading gossip about me, right? In fact, these things were not directly instructed by Wu Xiao. After all, she was now fully focused on healing her injuries and did not have much energy to care about other things. But before this, Wu Xian had ordered that when they had nothing to do, they would find trouble with the Ning family. As a result, her black-clothed subordinates spared no effort to cause trouble. Although it wasn't their wish to have God Lord Mist Ripple as the female lead, the result was that they couldn't control the rumors. As a result, the black-robed men's subordinates decided to act ruthlessly and personally direct such a good show. However, it seemed that this act had failed. The next day, the news of the Xiao family's extermination reached Lung Ruoxue and the others. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue also received a message from the Yao family head. Our Yao clan didn't do this. Chapter 2972, The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 15. Even though Master Yao's voice transmission sounded like he was trying to hide something, Lung Ruoxue still chose to believe him. She was going to kill him anyway, so it really didn't make a difference to her who did it. But even so, considering that the Yao family head had previously told her about the mastermind behind the Xiao family, she still warned him. You guys be careful. After telling Demon Evildoer and Song what Master Yao had said, Song also nodded. It really wasn't the Yao clan's doing. What is this old man trying to do? Are you trying to get on our good side? Master Ning couldn't help but ask. After knowing that his death was the work of the God Lord's estate, his opinion of Master Yao had naturally decreased a lot. However, if he saw Master Yao again, he would still not give him a good face. Who asked them to live like this for so many years? Neutral? That's not easy. If you're not careful, you might be crushed to pieces. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Uncle Long added, That's none of our business. However, as long as the Yao family doesn't side with Raimice, I won't touch them. Lung Ruoxue made her stand clear. Even though she was ruthless to her enemies, she was not bloodthirsty. As a result, as long as the other party did not touch her forbidden lamella, she would not kill him under normal circumstances. Don't worry, that old man is very cunning. He knows what he wants and where his bottom line is. Therefore, unless he is forced to, he will not make any choice. Master Ning, who knew Master Yao quite well, laughed when he heard Shui Er's words. That's good. I just hope he doesn't stand on the wrong side. Lung Ruoxue laughed. In fact, how could the Yao family head have the mood to pick a side at this time? Just the matters of the Yao family alone were enough to make him dizzy. After compensating the Ning family with a lot of property, the Yao family's financial resources shrank sharply, to the point that it was a problem to build a main house that was exactly the same as before. Money was the biggest problem the Yao family was facing now. The Yao family head was busy raising money while Lung Ruoxia continued to refine the Hotian Chaos Divine Weapon. The men in Black and Fog had also stopped for a while. The entire god world seemed to be peaceful, but in reality, there was an undercurrent. However, other than the few experts at the top of the pyramid, the ordinary deities could not feel the inexplicable tension of the low pressure. As the saying goes, the ignorant are fearless. It seemed that this was indeed a wise saying. Only those who knew nothing could live happily. The days were as usual. The Chung clan's encampment in Demon City was also slowly being established. The 100 clansmen chosen by Chung Xian were all brought here. They had been informed of the various rules before coming to Demon City. As a result, they were as obedient as newborn beasts upon reaching Demon City. Chung Xian was quite satisfied with this. However, he didn't dare to tell these people that he had brought them here just in case, so that he could leave a trace of the Chung family's bloodline. More than half of these 100 people were young children. This way, Uncle Long and the others had something to do. It was their responsibility to train new students. Chung Xian couldn't ask for more when Uncle Long and the others volunteered to be the race's coach. After all, it wasn't easy to find a godly venerable level coach. Even in the Chung family, he didn't dare to say that he could let the supreme divinity personally guide these little guys. Now these little guys were in luck, and Chung Xian was happy for them. Thanks moreover, the personal guidance of the reverent god-level cultivators was also very beneficial to these little fellows. Uncle Long and the others were even more strict teachers. Even the Chung family head, who had personally witnessed how they trained his own children, knew that he couldn't be as meticulous as them. You've worked hard. The Chung family's head personally thanked Uncle Long and the others, his eyes glistening with tears. He was so touched. These people were so cute. However, Uncle Long and the others couldn't tell that he was touched. Uncle Long even joked. Why are you crying? Didn't you just let your child suffer a little? It's not a big deal. Is it worth it? I'm not feeling heartache, I'm just touched. Can't you guys tell? Hearing this, the Chung family head said dejectedly, Are you touched? I really couldn't tell. Uncle Long laughed evilly. The head of the Chung family, who had been hit hard by Uncle Long, squatted in a corner and started drawing circles. 10 years later, Lung Ruoxia's weapon refining work was still ongoing. However, Chung Wu and the rest had already come out of their closed-door cultivation. Of course, he did not want to come out of his closed-door cultivation, but he was kicked out of his bracelet by Qingju. Therefore, the posture of the large group of people coming out of their closed-door cultivation was quite beautiful. Other than Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan, who had received special treatment from Qingju and had come out in a normal posture, the rest of the people had fallen from the sky with their limbs facing the sky and landed in the garden's pond. It could be said that too many people had fallen into this garden pond, including Uncle Long and the others. The result of this incident was that the small animals in the pond had once again suffered a psychological blow. They all went to the bottom of the water and did not dare to come out. Uncle Long and the others, who were sitting in the garden and chatting, were dumbfounded for a long time when they saw the people falling into the water. Finally, they came to their senses and looked at the wet people and asked, Can you guys advance? These people were already divine emperors when they were in seclusion. They had also been in their bracelets for so long, so their spiritual energy was already very abundant. Hence, Uncle Long had no doubt that they were kicked out by Green Vessel because they could advance. But looking at the expressions of these people, it didn't seem so. I'm still lacking a little. Lung Ruhan laughed. State of mind. Uncle Long and the others understood. Indeed, the advancement from a divine emperor to reverent god was a hurdle for all deities. Once they crossed this step, they would be able to reach the heavens in a single step. If they couldn't cross this step, they would forever be considered second-rate experts. The key to advancing to the next level was not only to have enough spiritual power, but also to have a strong mental state. However, These little guys had a good state of mind and pure thoughts, so Uncle Long and the others had high hopes for them. Uncle Long and the others couldn't help but laugh out loud when they learned about their current situation and looked at their current appearance. Uncle Long, are you done laughing? Cheng Wu, who was completely drenched, said gloomily. No, I didn't. Uncle Long and the others replied in unison, their laughter still loud and clear. Looking at the few old men who were laughing without any care for their image, Cheng Wu really wanted to squat in a corner and draw circles to curse them that they would not have any food to eat tonight. It was really too despicable. He actually laughed at them. Chapter 2973. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 16. In fact, these old men were just too bored. Now that they saw a little guy being kicked out of seclusion, they were naturally in a good mood. Especially when they saw the depressed expressions of these little guys, they laughed even more heartily. When they finally stopped laughing, Lung Ruhan could not help but ask, Uncle Long, where is Shui? Why don't I see her? Although he was in seclusion, he still missed his sister the most. He's refining. Uncle Long replied in a mysterious manner. Oh, then he'll go find her. Lung Ruhan laughed and ran towards Lung Ruoxia's weapon refining room. After a round of searching, he still could not find Lung Ruoxia, so he could only return to the garden. Uncle Long, I can't find Shui. Lung Ruhan asked in confusion. Qing Ju had said that Shui was not in the bracelet, so where did this person go? She built a temporary weapon forging room outside. Uncle Long was only halfway through his sentence when he heard a loud bang in the garden. He simply shut his mouth. What's that sound? Lung Ruhan and the others were curious. Weapon refining explosion. Uncle Long said calmly. Arg. Shui. Where is Shui? When Lung Qingtian heard this, he immediately became anxious. This sound was definitely made by Shui, the empty space outside. Uncle Long said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, Lung Qingtian and the others rushed out of the door impatiently. In the end, they found Lung Ruoxia and the others in an empty space far away from the main residence. At this moment, Lung Ruoxia and the others were completely black. Only two pairs of clear, watery eyes were exceptionally clear. Shui. Lung Qingtian called out softly. He did not dare to recognize her. Was this little black person his beautiful granddaughter? Grandpa, you've come out of seclusion? The moment Lung Ruoxia saw Lung Qingtian, she immediately pounced towards him. Back then, her grandfather and the others had been in a hurry to enter seclusion, and she had not seen her grandfather for so long, so one could imagine how much she missed him. Lung Qingtian hugged his precious granddaughter tightly, not caring about Lung Ruoxia's dirty appearance at all. The two of them were just short of hugging each other and crying. Shui, did you not see Big Brother? Lung Ruhan, who had been standing by the side for a while, saw that Shui only cared about her grandfather, and her heart could not help but bubble with bitterness. He was jealous. Brother. Seeing her brother acting like a child who couldn't get any candy, Lung Ruoxia couldn't help but be speechless. However, she still let go of her grandfather and gave her brother a hug. Lung Ruhan, who had gotten what she wanted, instantly felt that her life had been fulfilled. Miss, what about us? At this moment, Cheng Wu also said, do you need a hug? Before Lung Ruoxia could speak, the evildoer beside her had already spoken. Thanks, Arg. No need. No need. When Cheng Wu and the rest heard the demon's words, they were so scared that their little hearts trembled. Guild leader Yi is always so imposing. It was just a light sentence, but it made him feel that the world had become dim. You guys are out too? Lung Ruoxia, who was holding back her laughter, finally spoke. Then she looked at Cheng Wu and the rest in surprise and asked, you guys fell into the water? There's a problem with the way we came out. Cheng Wu couldn't help but say, you were kicked out? Lung Ruoxia finally understood. Miss, don't be so smart. Cheng Wu and the rest blushed. Yo, you're already an adult, and you're still blushing? However, you came out at the right time. Uncle Long and the others are too bored, so you should spend more time with them. Lung Ruoxia warned. Miss, we have to go out and gain experience. Cheng Wu reminded them. Their mental state was a little weak, so even if they had enough spiritual qi, they still could not advance. Thus, it was extremely necessary for them to go out and train. When Cheng Wu and the rest heard this, they could only smile bitterly in their hearts. They knew very well how destructive Uncle Long and the others were. If they brought them along, they could imagine that their carefree days would be gone forever. However, they couldn't disobey the young lattice words. Therefore, if they wanted to go out and train, it was necessary to bring Uncle Long and the others. Schwer, why let them go out and gain experience? My dream dust space can do it too. Whatever kind of experience you want, I can come up with it. It's definitely real and reliable. Suddenly, a snow-white figure appeared beside Lung Ruoxue and suggested with a smile. The moment she saw Huan Chen appear, the veins on Lung Ruoxue's forehead throbbed. She then said, "You'll have to ask them." She was a democratic boss, so she left the choice to her subordinates. "Are you willing to do so?" After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Huan Chen turned his pitch-black eyes to Cheng Wu and the rest. Cheng Wu and the others shivered. Everyone knew how terrifying illusory dust was, but the young lady did not care about it, so they did not dare to refuse. After exchanging glances with each other, Cheng Wu spoke on behalf of his brothers with a long face. "We were willing." They didn't dare to refuse. Otherwise, Huan Chen would definitely find an opportunity to teach them a lesson. Under Huan Chen's silent threat, Cheng Wu and the others decisively ran away. Then, before they could even eat a delicious and hot meal, Huan Chen took over. They did not even have the time to return to their own rooms. As for Uncle Long and the others, who thought they would have the opportunity to teach these little guys how to improve their mental state cultivation, they didn't have the guts to snatch them from Huan Chen. Otherwise, that sinister guy, none of Shui Air's artifact spirits could be provoked. Facing Song and Huan Chen, Uncle Long and the others were terrified. These two weapon spirits were simply too powerful. As for Green Vessel, they were not at their peak, and he was still a little baby, so they were not afraid. However, Green Vessel was quite scary when it was angry. Hence, Uncle Long and the others who were tactful would not take the initiative to provoke Green Vessel. In short, no matter what Shui Air's people were, they should not provoke them. After Cheng Wu and the others were taken over by Huan Chen, he decisively targeted Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan. However, he did not say anything and only looked at the two of them quietly. His gaze made the two of them feel their hair stand on end. In the end, they had no choice but to ask Lung Ruoxue for help with their eyes. "Let Grandpa and brother accompany me for a few days," Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. "Good. I'll come pick them up in 3 days." Huan Chen was very generous. Seeing that he only gave 3 days, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but want to ridicule him. Who was the master here? Shouldn't she be the one in charge? Why did all of them want to make decisions for her? Lung Ruoxue was filled with grief and indignation. Chapter 2974. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 17. However, when she saw Huan Chen's serious expression, Lung Ruoxue nodded decisively and said, "All right," he said. Alluring fantasy dust smiled and then disappeared. At this moment, Cheng Wu and the others, who had been brought into the illusion dust space by the illusion dust, saw this scene through the light screen. Their hearts instantly balanced out. So, the mist was also afraid of the illusion dust. "Wu am Shui Air's ancestor. Why can't you come in 3 days later?" Suddenly, a bitter voice was heard. It was Lung Qianya, who had been cultivating in seclusion for a long time. Hearing his words, Cheng Wu and the rest looked at him with sympathy. That's right. This fellow was quite unlucky. Not only did he not receive any preferential treatment from Green Vessel, but he was also treated the same way as them at Huan Chen. In their hearts, Lung Qianya's status was not even comparable to Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan. When they thought of this, Cheng Wu and the others felt a little sympathetic towards him. What a pitiful young misold ancestor. However, who could he blame? It should be known that everything that the young lady had today was all due to her own hard work. It had nothing to do with the Lung family. Even in the immortal realm, this cheap ancestor still had to rely on the young lady. It's none of your business to give birth, and you've never raised anyone before. Isn't it a fantasy to enjoy the same status as Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan? The kind Cheng Wu patted Lung Qianya's shoulder and said, Please restrain your grief. Lung Qianya was depressed. My condolences, my ass. Can't you comfort me and give me some positive energy? However, it was obvious that it was unrealistic for him to seek comfort from Cheng Wu and the others. How could a group of men have such tender feelings? Even if they did, it would definitely not be for Lung Qianya. It seems that you guys are in good spirits. Huan Chen, who had returned to the space, heard their conversation and laughed in a very lecherous manner. Although there had been quite a few guests who had come and gone from his space, he was most satisfied with Cheng Wu and the others. They were tenacious, determined, and willing to work hard. Training them gave him a sense of accomplishment. Now these people were only one step away from becoming Reverend God level, so he decided to arrange their training course as well. Sweeping his gaze across Cheng Wu and the others, Huan Chen understood their situation. The next day, the simulation training officially began. 3 days later, Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan were brought in by Huan Chen, who was on time. As for Lung Ruoxue, she continued to bitterly refine her acquired chaos divine weapon. Another 10 years had passed, and Lung Ruoxue's weapon refinement work was still continuing in an orderly manner. During this period, Feng De and the rest of the beastie were also kicked out by Qing Ju. He said that he was out to improve his mental state cultivation. However, Feng De and the others' cultivation was still a distance away from Cheng Wu's group. Hence, they had definitely spent much more time than Cheng Wu's group. After Feng De and the others were kicked out of their bracelets, the way they came out was very similar to Cheng Wu and the others. They were also laughed at by Uncle Long and the others. Following that, they felt deeply depressed. They were depressed because there was still a long way to go before they could advance, and they didn't even have enough spiritual energy stored, so they were kicked out just like that. This was really too much bullying. Don't think that they didn't know that Cheng Wu and the others were only brought out because they had enough spiritual energy. Feng De, who was extremely upset, complained to Uncle Long while the latter listened patiently. When Feng De finished, he said, "It's good that you're out now. It's better to cultivate outside. There's nothing wrong with gaining more knowledge and broadening your horizons. But the spiritual qi outside is nowhere near as abundant as the spiritual space," Feng De said sadly. Actually, he didn't want the gap between him and Cheng Wu and the others to be too big. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so angry. Thanks, however, since things had come to this, it seemed that this was the only way. Calm down. How old are you? When I became a reverent god, I was already tens of thousands of years old. So compared to us old guys, you guys are simply too happy. In fact, I'm quite jealous of you guys. Uncle Long said honestly. Little guy, would I lie to you? Uncle Long pretended to be angry. Just as the two of them were talking, 2 laws of heaven and earth descended from the sky. Everyone was shocked and ran out in a hurry. Outside the courtyard, Lung Ruhan and Lung Qingtian were in the midst of a realm breakthrough. Seeing this, Uncle Long and the others could only stay outside. A day later, the two finally woke up. The moment they opened their eyes, both of them revealed satisfied expressions. However, Uncle Long pretended to be angry and asked, "How did you break through outside? If someone were to disturb you, it would affect the effects of your advancement. Reverend God level was different from others. Once disturbed, one's strength would be greatly reduced. Therefore, experts were extremely careful when they advanced to Reverend God level and had to find a place with no one around. However, these two people had advanced to the upper level without a care. It was really, if someone were to cause trouble, Uncle Long would not know how to explain it to Shui. We didn't want to. Huan Chen just sent us out, and we couldn't control it." Lung Qingtian said with an embarrassed look. I've only heard of people who can't control themselves while giving birth, but this is the first time I've heard of someone who's in such a hurry to advance in rank," Uncle Long said with some jealousy, but he was still happy for them. With 2 more Reverend God level experts, their side would become much stronger. This time, Uncle Long and the others witnessed what it meant to lose control. The speechless Uncle Long and the others were much calmer this time. After waiting for an entire day, a certain someone had finally completed his advancement. Arg, am also a reverent god. Haha. The one who was a little carried away was Cheng Wu. At this moment, his excitement was beyond words, and no words could describe his current feelings. However, just as he laughed, he was secretly kicked away by Fengde, who was burning with jealousy. When Cheng Wu returned in a rage and wanted to find the murderer, everyone who knew the truth could not help but look up at the sky. However, no one paid him any attention. Cheng Wu was depressed. He was the one being bullied, so why did everyone have to cover up for the criminal? He was so sad. Cheng Wu looked at the crowd with hidden bitterness, but Uncle Long and the rest did not feel guilty at all. He should be kicked. He was indeed a little too smug. Uncle Long, Schwerer hasn't finished refining yet? In order to change the topic and continue ignoring Cheng Wu, Lung Qingtian asked about his precious granddaughter. How strange. Schwerer actually didn't appear when he broke through. This was really too abnormal. Chapter 2975. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation, 18. However, Uncle Long didn't even have the chance to reply before everyone heard another loud bang. Instantly, Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan understood, and decisively ran towards Lung Ruoxia's armament refining room. Not long after they came out, Fengde and the others, who were full of remorse and didn't have time to ask about their situation, decisively followed. No, I haven't. Grandpa, you've broken through, and so has Big Brother. Lung Ruoxia looked at her grandfather and brother's current strength and said happily, yes. Lung Qingtian and Lung Ruhan nodded. Miss, I've also advanced. Cheng Wu, who was unwilling to be ignored, made his presence known. Miss, we've been kicked out by Green Vessel. Fengde had successfully pushed Cheng Wu to the side as he approached Lung Ruoxia and said, you can cultivate outside. Lung Ruoxia laughed. We will. Although someone advanced to Reverend God level earlier than us, it's still uncertain who will win. Fengde looked at Cheng Wu provocatively and clenched his fist. That's right, you guys have to work hard. Lung Ruoxia encouraged. At this moment, a group of furry little beasts swarmed forward and surrounded Lung Ruoxia tightly. Upon seeing this, Uncle Long and the others immediately dodged far away. Schweer's beasts were so many that they could scare people to death. Those little beasts, upon seeing their beautiful and lovely master, began to complain. Naturally, it was Green Vessel. Moreover, they had a lot of opinions about Green Vessel. Lung Ruoxia did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, she also understood that these little guys were not happy that Qingju had kicked them out with Fengde and the others. In their words, they didn't need to improve their mental state cultivation, so why send them out? The little beasts were very puzzled. However, Song was very clear about Green Vessel's thoughts. Wasn't it because that guy felt that it was unfair when he saw that Nyo only had him, and the evil-looking man by her side while he didn't come out? Did they want these little beasts to cause trouble for them? Wasn't that a dream? It had even thrown that tiny beast god to the ice spirit side, not daring to appear in front of Nyo. These little beasts were definitely more time-saving and energy-saving than beast gods. Thinking up to this point, Azure suggested, girl, leave these little guys to me. I'll train them. Cute master, don't hand me over to this demon. When Baby heard this, he was so frightened that he immediately burrowed into Lung Ruoxia's arms and refused to come out. The treasure was certain that if they fell into Tsong's hands, even if they didn't die, they would lose a layer of skin. When Cold heard that he was rejected, he immediately became furious and grabbed the thick fur on Baby's neck. I'm a demon. No, you're not a demon. You're scarier than a demon. Master, save me. After Baby spoke the truth, he immediately turned to Lung Ruoxia for help. Azure, I'll talk to them. Lung Ruoxia had no choice but to plead for him. Thanks. After reaching the corner, the little beasts acted cute together, saying that they would rather die than let Azure train them. Lung Ruoxia looked at them quietly. When they felt that the atmosphere was not right and did not dare to make a sound, she opened her mouth and said, although Azure is a bit fierce and will be very strict with your training, if you refuse its training, I don't think I need to tell you what will happen, right? Your master, I, am now focused on artifact refining and can't take care of you. Think about it, if you refuse and are caught by Tsong, what will the consequences be? Or are you guys confident that you can avoid it forever? Master. Upon hearing this, the beast's eyes were filled with tears. Sob. If they could, of course, they wanted to avoid the demon. But could they? Now that they had been kicked out by Qingju, even the safest place was not willing to take them in. Where else could they hide? At the thought of this, the beasts were all worried. Lung Ruoxue stopped talking and gave them enough time to think. In the end, the beasties steeled their hearts and agreed. Sob. There were too many bosses, it was difficult for them. However, the guys around their master were fiercer than the other. They didn't dare to offend anyone. Since he didn't dare to offend them, he could only behave himself. Song was naturally extremely satisfied with such an outcome. As for Green Vessel in the bracelet, he stomped his feet in frustration. He had miscalculated. That night, to celebrate her grandfather, brother, and Cheng Wu's advancement to Reverend God level, Lung Ruoxue took a break for a few days and prepared a lot of food to satisfy everyone's needs. This celebration lasted for 3 whole days. 3 days later, Lung Ruoxue returned to the weapon refinement chamber. Fengde and the others were also taken over by Huan Qin. The 3 new hierarch left the demon city together. In the next 5 years, the people who entered the Bengal with Cheng Wu came out of seclusion one after another and successfully advanced. Of course, after they advanced, they also chose to leave Demon City and go to the real God world to experience it. In these 5 years, Lung Ruoxue and the other weapon craftsmen had gone through repeated experiments and made great progress in the creation of Hotian Chaos divine weapons. Now, although they would still explode, they would basically only fail at the last step. Even though the explosion at the end would be more depressing for the armament master, Lung Ruoxue was still very happy. This was because it indicated that their work in refining armaments had always been improving. Now, as long as he mastered the last step, the success of the Hotian Chaos divine weapon could be achieved in a few days. After a few years, Lung Ruoxue finally managed to craft a divine weapon. However, in Qingju's eyes, although this divine weapon was also an acquired chaotic divine weapon, it was not up to standard. Naturally, it would not be recognized by the heaven-defying art. On the other hand, Qingju's request for Lung Ruoxue was that the acquired chaos divine weapon that she forged must have a weapon spirit. Artifact spirit? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Inside the Bengal, Lung Ruoxue, who was initially excited, felt as if someone had poured cold water on her head. Her heart turned cold. Qingju had learned his lesson. He's learned too much. Moreover, this was not the first time Green Vessel had done this. Sister, I'm just afraid of adding pressure to you. Think about it. You haven't even made a Hotian Chaos divine weapon yet. If I tell you that a Hotian Chaos divine weapon that meets the requirements of the heaven-defying art must have a weapon spirit, how depressed would you be? Wouldn't it be my fault if I were to strike a blow to your morale? In addition, a real acquired chaotic divine weapon with a weapon spirit must be tempered by a weapon tribulation, just like a supreme grade elixir. Otherwise, it can't be called a real acquired chaotic divine weapon. So, sister, continue to work hard. We'll definitely succeed. Qingju laughed and coaxed. Lung Ruoxue was depressed when she heard this. She was extremely depressed. Although she did not deny that Qingju's words made sense, she was still depressed. Chapter 2976. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 19. After leaving the bracelet in a dazed and dejected manner, Lung Ruoxue went back to her room without saying a word. Uncle Long and the others were surprised to see this. What happened to Shui? Didn't he finally craft an acquired chaos divine weapon? Why are you unhappy? Uncle Long was confused. He had not forgotten how happy Shui was when she went to report the good news to Qingju. The demon wasn't sure, but he could feel that Shui was in a bad mood. At this moment, Huan Qin appeared and said with sympathy, "It's probably because the Hotian Chaos divine artifact that I refined didn't meet my requirements. It was just a guess, but it was the truth." What do you mean by that? Uncle Long and the others were puzzled. "I'm guessing that Green Vessel wants an acquired chaos divine weapon like me," Huan Qin said somewhat narcissistically. "You? Do you still want to live?" Uncle Long couldn't help but shiver. He didn't want Shui to make another demon. That would be a headache. Right now it was already terrifying enough that Shui had Song, Huan Qin, and Green Vessel by her side. If someone like Huan Qin appeared, wouldn't they have to tuck their tails between their legs and act like humans and beasts? That would really be a dead end. Just thinking about it was scary. What do you know? An acquired chaos divine weapon like me is definitely something that can only be encountered by luck. Huanchen said proudly. Uncle Long and the others were speechless in the face of such an illusion. After Lung Ruoxue returned to her room, she began to seriously consider Qingju's words. It was obviously not easy to refine an acquired chaotic divine weapon with a weapon spirit. Moreover, she had never refined a divine weapon that contained a weapon spirit. Although her chill was a divine artifact that could grow, after so many years, it only had a bit of spirituality. It was still far from becoming an artifact spirit. After thinking for a long time, Lung Ruoxue's thoughts became more and more chaotic. She had no choice but to walk out of the room. In the courtyard, the evildoer had been standing guard outside the room. When he saw Lung Ruoxue come out, he quickly went forward and pulled her into his arms. He asked with concern, "Shuer, it's just a divine weapon. Let's make a few more, and there will be a qualified one." Qingju said to bring an artifact spirit. Lung Ruoxue wasn't surprised that the demon would know about this and replied honestly, "Artifact spirit? Can you catch one?" The demon asked. "Artifact spirits can be captured? I've heard from Dreamdust that there's a type of stone that's extremely sentient. There's at least a 10% chance that it'll produce an artifact spirit if it's used to refine an artifact. However, if that's the case, I'm afraid I'll have to start all over again to refine post-celestial chaos artifacts." Evildoer told Shuer the information he had heard from Fantasy Dust. The moment Lung Ruoxue heard this, she was immediately interested and asked, "Where can I find that kind of stone?" "I don't know," the demon said helplessly. The word "I don't know" left Lung Ruoxue dumbfounded. She didn't know where to find it, so how could she catch it? It's possible to find traces of that stone in the deep mountains, canyons, ice sources, and deep seas. It said that when Fantasy Dust was made, it also added that stone to cause a mutation. The demon said again, Isn't the range a little too wide?" Lung Ruoxue was speechless. If they really searched like this, how many years and months would it take? It's a little bigger, but there's always hope, isn't there? After all, it's not easy to obtain heavenly treasures. The demon laughed. "That's true. Then let's go find that stone now." Lung Ruoxue could not wait any longer. When Uncle Long and the others heard that Lung Ruoxue and the demon were going to search for unknown ores aimlessly, they also expressed that they wanted to go and broaden their horizons. However, it was obviously unrealistic for so many people to follow them. Thanks in the end, Lung Ruoxue only brought away Evildoer, Uncle Long, Song and a group of little beasts. Lung Ruoxue and the demon had brought Uncle Long and the other little beasts to search the entire divinity. Now the only place they had yet to search was the largest volcano in the divinity. As soon as they reached the foot of the volcano, Dreamdust appeared. "Master, the stone is here," Huanchen said with absolute certainty. He could clearly sense a familiar aura within the volcano. Really? Lung Ruoxue was overjoyed. She immediately brought the evildoer, Uncle Long, and Song up the mountain. She couldn't let the stone escape. When they reached the peak of the volcano, Lung Ruoxue only released the phoenixes. As the other beasts did not like fire, she kept them in her bracelet. As soon as the phoenixes appeared, they flew into the air and searched everywhere. At this moment, Huanchen suddenly shouted, "Come out! I know you're here." Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. Was he trying to scare the stone away? However, after waiting for a long time, the stone-like object did not appear. Dreamdust was furious. Lung Ruoxue quickly consoled him. "That stone might be sleeping. We should be more careful." "Who said I was sleeping? I came out a long time ago. It's just that your eyes are bad and you didn't see me." All of a sudden, a childlike voice rang in Lung Ruoxue's ears. The moment Lung Ruoxue heard this, she immediately looked around and said gently, "Where are you?" "Human, lower your head," the voice said. Lung Ruoxue did as she was told. However, when she looked down, she realized that there was only a small blade of grass that was completely red. "Where's the rock?" Lung Ruoxue raised her head again and asked, "Where are you? I didn't see you. Idiot. Didn't I tell you to lower your head?" His voice was flustered and exasperated. Ugh. Lung Ruoxue obediently lowered her head once more. There was still only an unremarkable, ordinary-looking blade of grass in front of her. However, this kind of grass could be seen everywhere in the immortal realm, and was not rare at all. However, there was only one here, so it was a little strange. Crouching down, Lung Ruoxue's slender fingers touched the leaves of the grass and asked softly, "You're talking?" "It's me." The little red grass proudly shook its leaves and said. Lung Ruoxue's face darkened. The demon and Uncle Long were speechless. A blade of grass calling itself a lord. Was this a world-changing story? More importantly, shouldn't Dream Dust be summoning stones? Why would it be a blade of grass? Grass equals stone? Lung Ruoxue and the other two, as well as the phoenixes, could not help but turn to look at Huan Chun. In comparison, this fellow was still the most normal. Huan Chun, on the other hand, was infuriated by Lung Ruoxue's group of three and the beastie. He was so angry that he stomped on Little Grass' weak body and cursed. "Your sister, speak properly." It hurts. It hurts. You're a bad guy. You're a bully. If I had known, I wouldn't have shown myself. Wah. A cry came from beneath Dreamdust's feet. Chapter 2977. The Ninth Weapon Tribulation 20. A few more black lines appeared on Lung Ruoxue's forehead. Was it really okay for such a weak little grass to be crushed like this? Sensing Lung Ruoxue's feelings, Huan Chun laughed. "Master, don't worry. This fellow's life force is very strong. No, I'm not stubborn at all." A rebuttal came from beneath Huan Chun's feet. Then, a song was transmitted to Lung Ruoxue's group of three and the beastie's ears. "No fragrance, no height. I'm just a blade of grass that no one knows." The three of them and the beasts were silent. "This grass. Swear, I can see that this grass is obviously not mentally normal. It's clearly a stone, but it's turned into grass, and it's so happy. Is it really good to make an artifact spirit with such a material?" Uncle Long said what everyone was thinking, while Huan Chun only felt that he had lost face. As a former comrade, he felt that this broken stone was really not giving him any face. "Master, this stone is currently the only one in the divine realm," Dreamdust said after some thought. "If we use it as a material, it'll definitely save us a lot of trouble in refining post-celestial chaos divine artifacts. After all, artifact spirits are hard to come by." Although this was suspicious of cheating, it was fine as long as there was an item spirit in the acquired chaos divine item. Why did he care so much? But what about its personality? Lung Ruoxue couldn't take it anymore. It was too noisy. Just slowly train him. Although it's a little talkative, it's still bearable compared to its practical value. Dreamdust said. "Are you sure?" When Lung Ruoxue heard Huan Chun's words, she felt that he was like a grandmother wolf who abducted a little white rabbit. She just didn't know if the little white rabbit in his eyes was her, or the little grass that was a little crazy. "I'm sure." Huan Chun nodded heavily. "But is it willing to become an artifact spirit?" Even though Lung Ruoxue had agreed, she still had to clarify things. After all, she did not wish to force any living being with spirituality to do something they were unwilling to do. Unwilling? It can only transform after becoming a tool spirit. Otherwise, it'll always be a stone. Without even asking the grass, Huan Chun had domineeringly decided the grass future, and the grass had no chance to object. "Ooh, it's grass rights." In the end, Lung Ruoxue took the grass with her. After returning to Demon City, Dongfeng Yu, Master Ning, and the others heard that Lung Ruoxue had found a stone that could produce a weapon spirit. They were all curious and asked to take a look. However, when they saw that Lung Ruoxue had only taken out a single stalk of grass, everyone was collectively dumbfounded. "Swear, we want to see the stones." Master Ning couldn't help but remind him. "This is it," Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. "Are you kidding us? This is clearly grass." Master Ning said unhappily. Swear had learned to be bad. Grass-shaped stone, Lung Ruoxue explained. The moment Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, the red-colored grass that had been lying listlessly on her palm stood up. It shook its leaves to raise its spirits and said, "Hello everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. Please take good care of me." "Hello there, Master Ning," and the others responded in a daze. The world was so big, and there were all kinds of strange things. None of them had expected that the material Schwer brought back was actually an ordinary blade of grass. However, the little red grass, which had become a little crazy at the sight of so many people, began to sing again. "No fragrance of flowers, no height of trees. I am a little grass that no one knows. Ugh." Master Ning and the others didn't know how to react. Lung Ruoxue and the rest were extremely calm. It was good to let everyone admire this weird grass. Wasn't this sharing good fortune and suffering together? For a few days, they didn't dare to show up, afraid that the little grass that liked to sing would entangle them, because once entangled, the other party would want to treat them to free songs. But they didn't want to hear it at all. Right now, their only hope was that Schwer could quickly take care of this grass. However, they had forgotten that even if they dealt with this grass, it was also an artifact spirit and would still appear. At that time, it would be even more convenient for people to move around. More importantly, there was only one stone with such a spirit in the world. Hence, Lung Ruoxue had to be careful when dealing with the other party's body. If the refinement failed, she would have no place to cry to. As a result, he had to struggle for quite a few days. In the weapon refining room, Lung Ruoxue was carefully adjusting the temperature of the liquid in the weapon furnace. With her previous experience, she could now perfectly control the temperature of the fire to refine acquired Chaos Divine weapons. Beside her, there were also many finished products of the successfully refined acquired Chaos Divine weapons. However, these finished divine weapons did not have weapon spirits. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but stare at the floating red grass not far away. Those finished Hotian Chaos Divine artifacts were meant for it to live in. But who knew that this fellow had so many demands? It was either dissatisfied with the temperature, unwilling to put them into the furnace, or dissatisfied with the appearance of the divine artifacts. After so many refinements, there was not a single one that satisfied it. Lung Ruoxue was almost driven mad by its torture. "What kind of body do you want?" Lung Ruoxue asked through gritted teeth. "I don't know," Red Grass replied matter-of-factly. "Thanks, why don't you give me a tower-shaped one?" Red Grass thought for a while and said. Lung Ruoxue lowered her head and looked at the golden tower not far away. "Bastard! Don't steal my version." At this moment, Azure, who had been napping in the corner, opened his eyes and clawed at the grass, smacking it into the ground. She struggled to get up. There was a small blade of grass on the ground, but Lung Ruoxue ignored it. Then she heard Red Grass say, "Then give me some space." Lung Ruoxue continued to ignore him. Hearing this, Huanchen appeared and stepped on the grass, crushing it. This kind of thing happened almost every day. Lung Ruoxue was already numb to it. Right now, her biggest headache was what kind of home this grass wanted. After being tormented for a few more days, Lung Ruoxue decisively resorted to violence. She grabbed the grass and shouted fiercely, "I'll give you 3 minutes to tell me what kind of home you want. Otherwise, I'll make the decision for you. I want a spacious, beautiful, and cute one." A certain grass said while counting its leaves. Lung Ruoxue couldn't take it anymore. What was the difference between this and not saying anything? AI. She knew that she couldn't let this grass have too much authority, or it would climb all over her. In the next second, Lung Ruoxue threw the stalk of grass into the armament furnace. The moment it entered the armament furnace, the red-colored grass let out a shrill cry. Arg! It was so hot. It was so hot. It's burning this little master to death. However, Lung Ruoxue didn't care at all. Guard Wing and the rest who were helping out also ignored her. After living with this grass for a few days, they already knew the habits of this grass and would definitely not be fooled. More importantly, the temperature in the furnace was the most suitable for it. When the sound of the grass gradually weakened, the appearance of the acquired Chaos Divine weapon had already taken shape in Lung Ruoxue's mind. Finally, after tempering and shaping, the acquired Chaos Divine weapon was officially completed with the addition of the nameless little grass. This was a very beautiful house. It could be big or small, and the smallest one was not even the size of a palm. It completely met a certain grass requirements of being spacious and beautiful. As for its cuteness, it depended on the person. However, Before Lung Ruoxue and the rest had the time to admire the view, the house had already run outside in excitement. At the same time, the sky outside was filled with lightning and thunder, and the dark clouds were extremely spectacular. Lung Ruoxue and the rest looked at each other. They knew that this was the weapon tribulation. After passing the weapon tribulation, this post-celestial chaos divine weapon would be officially recorded in the laws of the heaven and earth. She would be able to complete her mission and officially advance. Thinking about it, Lung Ruoxue's heart couldn't help but beat wildly in excitement. However, the weapon tribulation of an acquired chaos divine weapon was far more powerful than that of a top-grade divine pill. Fortunately, the acquired chaos divine weapon was a house that was built for both living and defense. Thus, Lung Ruoxue was quite confident that it would be able to survive the weapon tribulation. It was just that the personality of the house's weapon spirit was a little worrying. As the first weapon tribulation descended, a certain house easily survived. The second lightning bolt, the third. All the way to the seventh lightning bolt, the house appeared very relaxed. However, at the eighth lightning bolt, the lightning bolts that struck down were obviously much thicker, which made the onlookers a little worried. Sure enough, the eighth artifact was already a little difficult to carry, but after a long time, it finally passed. However, after the eighth weapon tribulation, there was no more weapon tribulation. However, the dark clouds in the sky had not dispersed, so no one could tell if there would be another weapon tribulation. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxue couldn't feed the house any healing pills. The house had to rely on itself for everything. Hence, it could be said that she was more anxious than anyone else. Sensing Lung Ruoxue's anxiety, a certain house member consoled her. "Girl, don't worry, this young master will be fine. Your sister, are you fit to call her Niu?" Hearing this, Song exploded. "What's wrong with that? I didn't call you." A certain house was very disapproving. "I'm the only one who can say that, you're not allowed to." Azure Fire roared. "Humph." A certain house was so proud that it kept quiet. With the two of them stirring things up, the atmosphere at the scene was much more relaxed. It was unknown how long it had been brewing for. When the weapon tribulation descended once again, Lung Ruoxue and the others were shocked by the mighty lightning and thunder in front of them. This ninth weapon tribulation was simply the combination of the previous 8. The lightning bolt was almost 10 meters thick, and there were still sparks the size of an adult's arm on it. If it hit a human body, the surrounding crowd shivered and left. After hiding in the distance, everyone watched as the ninth tribulation bolt smashed into the house, instantly turning the beautiful house into a charred black. Lung Ruoxue was so nervous that her heart was in her throat. This house was built by her, and was naturally connected to her mind. Therefore, she could clearly feel that the house was in pain, but she could not help. If she interfered with the heaven and earth's test on this house, the weapon tribulation that the house would have to bear would increase by several times. Therefore, she did not dare to make a move at all. Looking at it from afar, her heart ached so much that it twisted together. Although that grass had a strange personality, it was still her child. The feeling of only being able to watch and not be able to help was really uncomfortable. The ninth weapon tribulation was indeed extraordinary. It lasted for 3 days and 3 nights the moment it appeared. The pain that Lung Ruoxue felt in her heart also continued for 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 2978. The final ending. 1. Lung Ruoxue could empathize with the pain in a certain house. More importantly, this feeling was too heart-wrenching, and after 3 days and 3 nights, she realized that the ninth tribulation didn't show any signs of weakening. Not only that, it even intensified from time to time. This fact made her feel deeply aggrieved. Lung Ruoxue gritted her teeth in hatred as she watched the weapon tribulation swagger around in the sky like a ferocious beast. It was a pity that she did not dare to step forward to help the house withstand the weapon tribulation. Otherwise, the weapon tribulation would only get worse. 2 days later, the weapon tribulation finally weakened. However, the wailing in Lung Ruoxue's heart was also getting weaker and weaker. This made her even more worried. "Shuer, what's wrong?" The demon asked worriedly when he saw Shuer's already pale face turn even paler. The grass aura has disappeared. Lung Ruoxue said in a depressed mood. Did you fail? Uncle Long could not help but ask. However, as soon as Uncle Long finished speaking, he received a lot of glares. The onlookers all looked at Uncle Long and accused him of touching a sore spot, while Uncle Long felt wronged. I don't know. The grass aura disappeared for a while, but then it reappeared. It was very weak, so I'm not sure if it succeeded. Lung Ruoxue said, feeling a little conflicted. This is indeed hard to judge. Uncle Long teased. He didn't know how to comfort Shui. At this moment, another thunderclap rang out in the sky, attracting everyone to raise their heads in unison. They saw that the sky, which had just had a trace of sunlight, had returned to its gloomy state. Immediately, everyone's heart sank. Was the weapon tribulation still not over? Your sister. Why is there no end to this? Everyone looked at Lung Ruoxue worriedly, afraid that she would go crazy. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue was really going crazy. However, what made her feel strange was that although the black clouds in the sky had gathered again, they did not descend even after a long time. She did not know what they were brewing. The 10th weapon tribulation took even longer than the 9th. They had waited for 5 days before the 10th weapon tribulation descended. However, this weapon tribulation was different from the previous 9. It was in the form of a thick black mist. The moment the 10th weapon tribulation descended, Lung Ruoxue's heart clenched once more. However, this time, she did not hear the pained wail of a certain grass. Instead, she could feel the aura of a certain grass growing stronger. What was going on? Don't worry, it's fine now. Lung Ruoxue turned to Demon and the rest with a faint smile. That's good. Uncle Long and the others were relieved. I'm fine. Oh, it's so comfortable. At this moment, the sound of a certain house appeared in everyone's ears. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She had no idea who that weak aura was. As time passed, the thick black fog that shrouded a certain house was slowly absorbed. After the thick fog disappeared, the house that had been struck by lightning and turned black returned to its original gorgeous appearance. Thanks. At this moment, a handsome young man jumped out from the house. The moment he appeared, he immediately pounced towards Lung Ruoxue. However, before he could even touch the corner of Lung Ruoxue's clothes, he was sent flying by a kick from someone. Lung Ruoxue and the others watched helplessly as the fancy-looking young man turned into a shooting star and slowly disappeared before their eyes. At that moment, the crowd was at a loss for words. This young man should be the little grass that liked to sing, right? What a pity. He hadn't even said a word to them, and he had already passed away. And the main character who created this tragedy was naturally the evildoer. However, the evildoer did not feel guilty at all after doing all this. To dare to take advantage of his woman, just kicking her away was already considered cheap. Looking at the evildoer's calm expression, Lung Ruoxue calmed down as well. She couldn't possibly blame the evildoer for the sake of a freshly made weapon spirit. More importantly, she deeply felt that the tool spirit should be properly tidied up. At the very least, she had to get rid of his habit of singing to others at random. It was noise. Absolute noise. Naturally, Lung Ruoxue was the happiest after she had refined and acquired chaotic divine weapon with a weapon spirit. Furthermore, Qingju had also sent her a voice transmission to confirm that she had passed the test. With that, she could finally advance. Before she made a breakthrough, she happily pulled the demon, Uncle Long, and the others to celebrate. Not long after Lung Ruoxue and the rest started eating, a disheveled-looking young man suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The moment he saw Lung Ruoxue, he hugged her leg and did not let go. Neo, girl, you have to help me. Someone is bullying me. The young man howled, extremely sad. However, just as he howled twice and before Lung Ruoxue could even speak, everyone saw several white lights flash before their eyes. Immediately after, an earth-shattering howl of a wolf could be heard. On the youth's face, there were 10 claw marks that were bright and eye-catching as warm blood seeped out from them. Senior Tsang is really ruthless. The crowd and the beasts couldn't help but secretly sympathize with him. However, no one dared to come forward to comfort him. At this time, they saw the young man being kicked and sent flying. Needless to say, this was the work of a demon. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She knew it. This guy still couldn't change his nature even after becoming an artifact spirit. As long as she thought about how she would have such an obviously abnormal artifact spirit by her side in the future, she would feel very conflicted. The sympathy and heartache she had for this grass before had also disappeared. Shut up. Lung Ruoxue couldn't take it anymore and roared. Wu. Master doesn't love me. The young man sobbed silently. He originally wanted to call Niu, but when he saw the stinky cat in his master's arms glaring at him threateningly with its claws, he decisively gave up. As long as you don't sing too much, there will be many people who will love you in the future. Lung Ruoxue gritted her teeth. It's because I've been alone for tens of thousands of years that I developed the habit of talking to myself, the young man said in an extremely aggrieved manner. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She did not know if she should sympathize with him. At this moment, Uncle Long, who couldn't bear it, walked forward and gently stroked the young man's head. Little fellow, there will be many people accompanying you in the future. Chapter 2979, The End 2. Yes. The young man nodded and said with a serious face, Please don't call me little guy, okay? I'm not younger than you. Uncle Long was depressed. Then the young man took the initiative to greet everyone. Let's get to know each other again. I'm called Xiao Chao. Hello little guys. All the beasts were depressed. They had never thought that Shui would refine an elder for them. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue stood up and said to the crowd of beasts, Uncle Long, you guys can continue eating. I'm going to make a breakthrough. If she continued to stay here, she would go crazy. This grass is incurable. It's getting late, we should go back to our rooms. Uncle Long and the others said in unison. With that, the crowd and beasts all disappeared. Little Grass, who was left alone, was completely dumbfounded. What? What did this mean? He hadn't finished speaking. However, it was obvious that no one was willing to listen to his nonsense. After Lung Ruoxue left, she entered the bangle immediately. The demon entered with her. After sitting in the purple bamboo house, she began to advance. The last level of the heaven-defying art required an unimaginable amount of spiritual qi. Fortunately, she had no lack of spiritual qi at the moment, and now everything was going smoothly. Therefore, she quickly felt the barrier to the next level. She mobilized the spiritual qi in her body and rushed forward with all her strength. The demon watched Lung Ruoxue nervously from the side and observed her movements at all times. A few hours later, Lung Ruoxue was drenched in sweat. It was as if she had fallen into water. Her clothes were all drenched in sweat, and a pained expression gradually appeared on her face. Seeing this, the demon's heart shrank. However, he knew that at this moment he could not panic. After all, Shui could only rely on herself to advance. Unless Shui's spiritual energy was insufficient, he could not lend a helping hand. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Slowly, Lung Ruoxue's pain lessened, and her expression gradually calmed down. After a long time, Lung Ruoxue finally opened her beautiful eyes. Just as she was about to smile at the evildoer, her body went soft and she fell down. Shui. The demon's expression changed when he saw this. He rushed over and hugged Lung Ruoxue. I'm so tired. The listless Lung Ruoxue only managed to utter these 3 words before she fainted. The demon was scared out of his wits and immediately carried Shui to the bed. At this moment, Qingju appeared and said, Elder sister is fine. She's just too tired and fell asleep. Lung Ruoxue had slept for half a month. While she was sleeping, her body was also absorbing the spiritual energy in the bracelet. When she woke up, she no longer felt tired, but there was still no spiritual energy left in her body. She felt that once she advanced, she had gone from a rich man to the poverty line. She was so depressed that she wanted to scratch the wall. Other people were refreshed and energetic after advancing. But why did she feel like she was going to fall with a single touch? This was really bullying. In her current state, she couldn't even take advantage of the law points of heaven and earth if she wanted to advance to reverent God level. Thanks, the sorrowful Lung Ruoxue looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle without saying a word. The evildoers who knew about her situation didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He held Schwer in his arms and coaxed her. Schwer, don't be depressed. There will be spiritual energy. Everything will be there. That's right. Sister, please help me break the seal first. Qingju also said. Break the seal? We'll talk about it when I'm better. Lung Ruoxue innocently blinked her beautiful eyes and said calmly. This time it was Qingju's turn to scratch the wall. Was his sister clearly abusing her power to take revenge on a private matter? You can't do this. He was still waiting to unseal the seal and start farming. It could be said that he was more concerned about the size of his own land than he was about recovering his full strength. However, the current situation was that Lung Ruoxue was in a bad mood and didn't intend to let him have his wish. Qingju also knew that his sister was in a fit of anger. Hence, it was best for him to be obedient at this time and not touch his sister's head. Otherwise, his sister would definitely go crazy. With this thought in mind, Qingju forced himself to calm down and looked at Lung Ruoxue with hidden bitterness. He wanted to use his gaze to make his sister feel guilty. Unfortunately, even though his idea was good, this wish was very difficult to fulfill. This was because Lung Ruoxue's skin was already thicker than a city wall. She ignored Qingju's resentful gaze and focused on being a rice weeper, enjoying the service of the beautiful man. Seeing how the evildoer treated Lung Ruoxue like his ancestor every day, Qingju secretly despised him. However, the evildoer did not care. In fact, from his perspective, it was only right for a man to serve his wife. Who would dare to say no? Inside the bangle, Lung Ruoxue was recuperating. At the same time, she was trying her best to absorb spiritual energy in preparation to take advantage of the laws of heaven and earth. Outside the bangle, Lung Ruoxue, who had not appeared for a long time, also caused Uncle Long and the others to be worried. They had no idea what Lung Ruoxue's current situation was, and felt that Xue'er's realm advancement was a little too long. According to past practices, Lung Ruoxue would only be cultivating in the bracelet. As long as she had enough spiritual qi, she would usually come out to advance. However, Xue'er had clearly made all the preparations long ago. So why had she not come out yet? The more time passed, the more worried Uncle Long and the others became. However, Song wasn't worried at all. Every day he would eat and drink as he should, and also play with a certain grass. One had to say that azure was the nemesis of a certain grass. Especially when Uncle Long and the others were annoyed by the grass. As long as they threw the verdant bamboo, the grass would immediately wither. It could be said that Song's life was quite comfortable. Later on, the grass learned its lesson and was determined not to provoke Song. That guy was indeed not someone it could afford to provoke, especially when its master was not around. 3 months later, Lung Ruoxue, who had enough spiritual qi to advance, finally left the bracelet with the demon. The moment Lung Ruoxue appeared, a white figure charged towards her. After sensing that the other party wasn't Song, she was just about to dodge when the figure flew out again. Lung Ruoxue was rather calm as she looked at the little dots of white light. Xue'er, you finally come out. When they saw Lung Ruoxue, Uncle Long and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Uncle Long, I've made you worry. There was an accident when I was upgrading the heaven-defying art, and I used up all my spiritual qi, so I stayed in there for a while longer. Lung Ruoxue explained with an apologetic look. It's good that you're fine. Uncle Long said, relieved. It's fine now. I can take advantage of the laws of heaven and earth now. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. In the past, when she broke through, she would think that the benefits she received were a gift from the heavens. However, after she understood the laws of heaven and earth, she no longer thought that way. As the saying goes, it would be a waste not to take advantage of the laws of heaven and earth. More importantly, even if she did not take advantage of it, the laws of heaven and earth might not thank her. Chapter 2980, The End 3. With such thoughts in mind, Lung Ruoxue naturally felt at ease. After finding an empty spot on the mountaintop and sitting down cross-legged, she was surrounded by countless small and exquisite beasts. The demon, Uncle Long, and the others were standing guard outside to keep an eye on them. After waiting for a while, the laws of heaven and earth finally descended. At the same time, when Lung Ruoxua broke through, several laws of the heaven and earth descended. These laws of the heaven and earth landed on Ziyu, Mei Fengzhan by Su, and Bao Bao, who were standing beside Lung Ruoxua. Uncle Long and the others were stunned. Those few beasts had also advanced to the level of a revered emperor beast at the same time. Uncle Long suddenly felt a little upset when he saw how easily they advanced. It must be known that he had gone through a lot of hardships to advance to the venerable emperor level. However, these beasts' advancement was obviously much easier than his, especially their treasures, which made him envious and jealous. In his eyes, treasure was not a beast that worked hard. Yet, it had become one of the earliest beasts that Lung Ruoxua had managed to advance to the Venerate Lord rank. How could this not make others jealous? Uncle Long and the others continued to watch. With such a repeated exchange of benefits, be it Lung Ruoxua or the beastie, the benefits they obtained were extremely huge. The crowd could not help but feel envious, jealous, and hateful. There were always beasts breaking through. So the laws of heaven and earth continued for a long time. After nearly half a month, the laws of heaven and earth slowly faded. Lung Ruoxua opened her eyes. Shui, your advancement is truly spectacular. Uncle Long couldn't help but say. Even though he was mentally prepared, he was still shocked after seeing it with his own eyes. It was simply too inconceivable. Compared to Shui's and the other beasties' breakthroughs, Uncle Long and the others felt that their own breakthroughs were too weak. At this moment, the beasts gradually woke up. When they saw Lung Ruoxua beside them, they all snuggled into her arms. At the same time, Baby proudly answered Uncle Long's question. It's no big deal, we've always been like this. Uncle Long and the others were speechless. This little guy really didn't know what humility was. Especially when they saw Baby's smug expression, they really didn't know what to say. What are you showing off for? Wasn't it just a rank up? Little guy, do you know how to be humble? Everyone looked at the baby. The baby replied with his eyes, not understanding. As a beast, he had to be high profile when he needed to be. After exchanging glances, Uncle Long and the others were completely defeated. Because in their eyes, their baby's thick skin had also been trained to a certain level. After communicating with Uncle Long and the rest, Baby turned to Lung Ruoxua and said, My lovely master, your treasure is also a reverent god now. Thanks, adorable master. Your baby has always been very low-key. Baby said, feeling wronged. All right. I think we should keep a low profile. Lung Ruoxua said helplessly as she touched the baby's fur. Nyo's right, he should be like me, not sticking out for anything. At this moment, Song's voice rang in everyone's ears. At that moment, the treasure was terrified and buried its head in Lung Ruoxua's arms. When everyone heard Song's words, they couldn't help but gasp. Senior Song, don't you stand out in everything? In their opinion, the most high profile of the beasts was definitely Azure. However, they only dared to think about it in their hearts and didn't dare to say it out loud. Otherwise, Azure would definitely explode with anger. However, even if they didn't say anything, from their expressions and reactions, Azure could tell that these people were talking bad about it. It was just that it was in a good mood today, so it didn't bother with these little guys. At the same time, as Tsong took a step towards Lung Ruoxua, the beasts could no longer be bothered to get close to Lung Ruoxua. They immediately scattered and hid far away. Uncle Long and the others were left speechless by this scene. Senior Tsong has trained these little beasts very well. In reality, Baby and the other beasts were depressed to death. However, they were no match for Azure. As such, they could only act like beasts with their tails between their legs. With a faint smile, Song gave the beastie a satisfied look before jumping into Lung Ruoxua's arms. He asked curiously, Girl, your heaven-defying incantation has already reached the Great Circle. Why hasn't that idiot Qingju come out yet? This isn't right? Based on its understanding of that idiot green vessel, who had recovered its full strength, should have come out to fight it one-on-one long ago. But it had been waiting for a few days, and there was still no sign of the little baby? This was too abnormal. I still haven't released the last seal on him. Lung Ruoxua said guiltily. Previously, she did not unseal Qingju on purpose. However, she had really forgotten about it after that. No way? Did he not cause a scene? That guy is most concerned about those few pieces of land. Azure's eyes widened in disbelief. No, I didn't. Lung Ruoxue whispered. At this moment, Qingju's sobbing voice suddenly sounded in her heart. Sister, it's already been more than 3 months. When are you going to release the last seal for me? Wu, big sister is such a bully. Ugh. Lung Ruoxue felt a little guilty and hurriedly said. I'll undo the last seal for you now, so don't cry. Sister, you can't lie to me. Qingju said cautiously. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. When have I ever lied to you? This little wimp actually didn't believe her. Hee. Qingju laughed foolishly. He did not dare to anger Lung Ruoxue anymore. I'll go and unseal Qingju. The helpless Lung Ruoxue greeted the crowd and entered the bracelet. Inside the bangle, Lung Ruoxue arrived at the seal. After casting a few spells, the space within the bangle immediately started to shake. After a short period of shaking, the space expanded by several times and the spirit chi became denser. At the same time, a few more images appeared in Lung Ruoxue's mind. Those images were the scenes of her master being persecuted by the foggy rippling bitch. When those scenes flashed through Lung Ruoxue's mind like a movie, she understood everything. In fact, it was just as the demon and Huan Chen had said. In the face of fog ice, who could be considered to have been raised by him, Master could not do anything. Chapter 2981. The End. 4. After taking a few deep breaths of fresh air, Lung Ruoxue turned around calmly. When she did not find any traces of Qingju, she guessed that Qingju must have gone to guard his place. When he arrived at the land that had also expanded several times, he saw that Qingju had already begun to cultivate the land diligently. The newly vacated land was scattered with vegetable seeds and medicinal herb seeds. The little black dog, who had been Qingju's follower, was jumping around excitedly. Seeing these two, Lung Ruoxue's head was filled with black lines. She could not help but carry green vessel and ask, Qingju, have you recovered your strength? Yes. Qingju nodded and struggled to leave Lung Ruoxue's embrace. However, Lung Ruoxue hugged him tightly and asked, what new ability do you have now? Copy. Qingju replied straightforwardly, and continued to try to get rid of Lung Ruoxue. Copy? What do you mean by that? Lung Ruoxue didn't understand, so she naturally didn't plan on letting him off. What I mean is, I know everything that sister knows. I can also copy what others know. Qingju explained simply, and then said, Sister, let me down, I want to farm. Lung Ruoxue could not help but wipe the cold sweat off her forehead and put green vessel down. Although she still did not fully understand what Qingju was saying, she still chose to leave when she saw that Qingju was obviously not in the mood to talk to her. P&D and Ov 1. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had come out, Uncle Long asked impatiently, Schwer, what new ability did Green Vessel gain after the seal was broken? He said copy. Lung Ruoxue replied, is this ability useful? Everyone was quite surprised. It should be useful, right? Lung Ruoxue wasn't sure. However, since this was an ability that could only be obtained after breaking the last seal, it shouldn't be useless. Girl, don't worry. This ability of his is very useful. When Song heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he spoke with a face full of hatred. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes were instantly attracted, and all of them had an expression of seeking answers. You know? Even though Lung Ruoxue knew that it was a wise decision, her face was still filled with hope. This ability is so annoying, Azure said through gritted teeth. After hearing the word copy, it remembered that the idiot green vessel had such an ability that it hated the most. However, seeing that Neo did not know much about it, it still explained to her. This ability can copy everything we have, whether it's our own skills or anything else. It can completely copy everything. Fortunately, he can only copy 80% of what we have. Otherwise, we'd be depressed to death. Thanks, of course, the 80% it mentioned was only in terms of strength, and the rest was not included. Moreover, Song didn't explain it too clearly. After all, there were some things that they wouldn't understand even if they were explained. You mean let him help me break the formation? Lung Ruoxua asked with uncertainty. Yes. He was born from the primordial chaos. Although he is very weak, he is still an innate chaotic divine artifact and the heart of the divine realm. Thus, with his help, the rhyme bitch's formation will be nothing. However, the formation has to be broken in 3 places at the same time, so we're still missing one person. As Tsang spoke, he suddenly became worried. Can't Shueimo do it? What is the heart of the divine realm? Lung Ruoxua, Uncle Long, and the rest asked in unison. Shueimo's strength is still lacking. I'm afraid he won't have enough spiritual qi. Azure thought for a moment before explaining. It's the heart of the divine realm. Without him, the operation of the divine realm will become a problem. Of course, I'm referring to the situation where that idiot Qingju is dead. Generally speaking, as long as he's not dead, there won't be any problems with the divine realm. If there's no problem with the divine realm, then there naturally won't be any problems with all the spaces. Oh, everyone understood. Shueimo, who was sitting in the corner, burst into tears when he heard Song say that his strength was still lacking. He was a reverent god. Don't be so harsh, okay? However, he didn't dare to refute Azure's words. So since the other party said that his strength was weak, then so be it. In any case, compared to Azure, his strength was indeed very weak. Thinking about this, Shueimo was furious. Your sister. Who are you calling weak? Who's the idiot? At this time, an angry voice rang in everyone's ears, and then a little doll appeared out of thin air. When Shueimo heard this voice, he felt very kind. Although he knew that this child was not speaking up for him, he felt that he had a little partner now. Stupid cat. You dare to speak ill of me while I'm not here. Do you think I'm dead? Qingju jumped in front of Tsang and waved his little fist. I'll just take it that you're dead. What do you think? Your reflex arc is pretty long. I've already said it for a while before you jumped out. Song said with a look of disdain. His eyes seemed to say, you're just a noob. It took so long for him to jump out. If you're not a noob, then who is? Your sister. I'm farming. I don't have time to deal with you. Qingju shouted. When she heard Qingju confidently say that he was farming, Lung Ruoxua felt as if lightning was striking her. Qingju, I'm a high-end artifact spirit. Can you not always talk about farming? No matter how she heard it, she still felt uncomfortable. Uncle Long and the others were also in a mess. Originally, it was already lively enough with Tsang going against the mistress of the dark world. Now there was another green vessel. This was the rhythm of the world falling into chaos. Their days in the future would probably be in deep waters and suffering. It had to be said that Uncle Long and the others had found out the truth. After Green Vessel had recovered its full strength and could leave the bracelet, the outside world had indeed been lively for a while. Green Vessel, who had not had the chance to leave the bracelet for a long time, had also fully carried out the spirit of exploration and studied the divine world thoroughly. However, while he was happy, many people in the immortal realm were not. At this moment, although Uncle Long and the rest had expected this, they did not expect Green Vessel to be so destructive. After all, in everyone's eyes, Green Vessel was still a little kid. Since you're farming, why did you come out now? Azure smiled and continued to provoke him. I'm happy. It's none of your business. Qingju glared at Song viciously before he transformed into an obedient little doll and threw himself into Lung Ruoxua's arms. He suggested, Sister, count me in to solve the formation. As for the other candidate, let this damn cat do it. Your sister. I don't know how to dispel the formation. Exploding-haired Song roared. It's all right. You can get this little Qilin to help you. Azure pointed at Shueimo, who was pretending to be transparent. Hearing Qingju call him little Qilin, Shueimo was filled with grief and indignation again. They were all bullying him. After all, he was an ancestor of the Qilin race. In the mouth of a cat and a little baby, he was just a little guy. How could he live? Chapter 2982. The End 5. How do I break the feeling of knocking my head against the wall? Moreover, while he was depressed, he also received many sympathetic gazes, which made him quite speechless. He didn't need anyone's sympathy. He really didn't need it. Well, Azure, I'll leave it to you. After hearing Qingju's suggestion, Lung Ruoxue was afraid that Song would object, so she quickly added, "Girl, don't blame me if something happens," Azure said with a cautious expression. I don't blame you." Lung Ruoxue wiped away her sweat and thought, with Shui Mo watching, nothing big will happen. However, when the others heard his words, they were so frightened that their faces changed. These words, why did they sound so uncertain? "Qingju, you're out?" At this moment, an excited voice rang out. Then a little Qilin ran over excitedly. "Bingyao, why are you still a small ball?" Qingju looked at Bing Yi and asked in confusion. "You haven't grown up either," Bingyao said weakly. "I'm the spirit of the artifact." Qingju was a little embarrassed. Could he say that his sister would not hug him anymore when he grew up? Could he say it? That was why he didn't want to grow up. He wanted to be like this forever. "Beastie," Bingyao said dumbly. Qingju was silent. He did not mean it that way. "Bingyao, I'll show you someone," Qingju said after sighing. "What?" Bingyao blinked and looked at Qingju in confusion. "Master, I've missed you so much." As soon as Bingyao saw the young man, she immediately pounced toward him. "Bingyao, I also missed you." Wu hugged Bingyao's small body tightly and said softly, "Wu, you finally recovered." Lung Ruoxue felt at ease when she saw Wu's condition. A few years ago, she had already refined a pill for Wu that could help him. After that, Wu had been in seclusion. Now that he had come out of seclusion, he was naturally happy for him. "Shuer, thank you," Wu Yi said gratefully. "Don't mention it, we're all family." Lung Ruoxue laughed. "Right. We're on the same side." Wu Happy said, "Detestable. Let go of my son." Suddenly, an angry voice rang out again, giving everyone a big fright. Without looking back, everyone knew that it was Ice Spirit. As expected, Bingpa quickly rushed over and grabbed the Ice Phoenix from Wu's arms. He held it tightly in his arms, as if he was afraid that Wu would snatch his son away from him. When Wu saw this, she was dumbfounded and looked at Lung Ruoxue in confusion. What was going on? Did something happen when he wasn't around? Why was there someone snatching the beastie from him the moment he came out? Wait a minute. Did this man just say to let go of his son? His son was Bingyao? Seeing Wu's bewilderment, Lung Ruoxue smiled and introduced him to them. "Don't fight. One of you is the Ice Phoenix's father, and the other is its master. You're all on the same side." Thanks. When everyone heard this, they were so scared that their little hearts trembled. Although most people didn't know Wu, even Master Ning and the Great Elder who knew him had a bad feeling about Wu's words. This was definitely the rhythm of drawing hatred. Sure enough, Ice Soul's face darkened and he suddenly shouted, "Why doesn't Bingyao have a father? Don't tell me you didn't jump out of a rock." I didn't mean it that way. I thought that Bing Yi was an orphan." Knowing that he had said the wrong thing, Wu hurriedly explained. At the same time, he felt depressed. Could it be that after being in seclusion for a long time, his IQ had dropped sharply? Otherwise, how could he say such low IQ words? It was a sad and unkind place. After hearing Wu's explanation, Bing Pio's anger dissipated. After all, it was not wrong for her to think so. More importantly, Bing Yao's master was his son's savior, so he was only grateful. Ice Spirit thought for a while and said, "Little guy, my son and I will follow you from now on. Take in the small and give the big." Unblinking blinked in disbelief. Since it was Bing Yao's father, it must be an adult Qilin. Did he earn big? This was definitely a pie in the sky. Of course, Wu wouldn't be stupid enough to reject such a good deal. However, he was so shocked that he didn't manage to react for a moment. Kid, quickly agree. Senior Ice Soul is the forefather of the Qilin clan. You'll have someone to back you up in the future. Seeing that nothing was still in a daze, Master Ning urged anxiously, "Senior Ice Spirit, please take care of me." After Master Ning's reminder, he immediately said, "Don't worry. I'll take care of you for the sake of my son." Ice Spirit nodded. Ice Spirit had heard a lot about this kid from his son, so he had a good impression of him. Therefore, he was not worried about his son following him. Of course, he had to follow his son as well. After all, his son was still weak, and his master was not that strong. Little fellow, isn't it time for you to advance? Ice Spirit reminded Wuji when she felt Wuji was full of spiritual qi. Arg. I almost forgot. Shui, where is the most suitable place to advance? Wu Hui looked at Lung Ruofa and asked nervously. I'll bring you there. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly when she saw how nervous Wu was. He brought Wu to the place where she had broken through previously. Lung Ruoxue and the others stood at the side and watched. After that, the laws of heaven and earth descended. Why does this kid look so silly? Ice Spirit couldn't help but ask as she looked at Wu, who was breaking through. He's just too nervous. After all, it's his first time meeting the parents. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. I'm not a ferocious beast. Ice Spirit said unhappily. When they heard this, Lung Ruoxue and the others looked deeply at Bingpu. They all thought in unison. Senior, are you even scarier than a flood or a ferocious beast? Unfortunately, the person involved didn't think so at all. After a long time, he finally completed his rank up and continued to advance several levels, directly advancing to the Divine Emperor realm. Looking at his strength, Ice Spirit felt that it was not satisfactory, but he was satisfied with it. After all, it wasn't easy to advance to Reverend God level. As Ice Spirit continued to judge Wu with her fastidious eyes, Wu gradually calmed down. After a while, Lung Ruoxue especially held a small celebration party for Wu and formally introduced him to the crowd. The next day, Wu Xiang bade farewell to Lung Ruoxue and planned to take a walk around the divine world. If Wu had such thoughts, Lung Ruoxue would not stop her. She knew that for her son, Ice Spirit would follow her. With Ice Spirit as her backing, no matter where Wu went, there would be no problem. If anything were to happen, it would be someone else who would be in trouble. After sending off a few people, Lung Ruoxue decided to head to the city of abandoned ruins again. Previously, due to her insufficient strength, she was unable to break the seals on the White Tiger, Dragon and Phoenix race. This time around, she must definitely rescue the beastmen from these three races. Chapter 2983. The End 6. The moment they heard that Lung Ruoxue was going to save the beastmen of the three tribes, Fengzhan and the rest were instantly excited. Even the mother parasol tree, who had not appeared for a long time, looked at Lung Ruoxue affectionately, like a little girl who had just experienced love. Lung Ruoxue was so frightened by the mother parasol tree's fervent gaze that her heart trembled. After preparing the materials that she would need, she left Demon City with the demon, Uncle Dragon, and the rest. Lu Fan was overjoyed when he arrived at the city of abandoned ruins. He was especially friendly when he saw everyone. After finding out that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had specially come to dispel the array, he immediately brought them to the location of the seal. Lung Ruoxue and Qingju were each in charge of a formation, while Tsang and Shui Mo were in charge of another. When Lu Fan saw the configuration, he was so shocked that his jaw almost fell off. He could understand why Lung Ruoxue and his master had occupied one area each, but how could a little kid occupy one of the sealed areas? Could it be that this little kid also knew how to dispel the formation? Oh my God! When did the little kids of the divine realm become so powerful? Seeing that Lu Fan was looking at him with surprise, and amazement, Qingju was a little angry. What are you looking at? I don't see any children. It was really worrying. He didn't want to be surrounded by people like a rare animal. Lu Fan looked away and said carefully, "It's not that I haven't seen it before, but I've never seen someone as young as you take on such a great responsibility. I've lived for hundreds of billions of years. How am I small?" Qingju said angrily. Ugh. Lu Fan was roaring in his heart. Did the divine world have hundreds of billions of years? It didn't seem like it. However, the people around Lung Ruoxue were not simple people, so Lu Fan was smart enough not to say these words. However, how could Qingju not understand what he was thinking? He said with a look of disdain, "Little guy, I'll tell you the truth. There's already this grandpa before the divine realm." One could imagine how crazy Lu Fan was to be called a little guy by a little boy. Forget it, I won't argue with a little kid, or else I'll be laughed at. Lu Fan consoled himself. PND Innov 1. This time, Lu Fan was completely horrified. Wu. He knew that Lung Ruoxue would not have an ordinary child by her side. Look, this little fellow actually knew what he was thinking? Did he want to die? Lu Fan was worried. No one would believe that a divine lord was frightened by a baby. Thanks Uncle Long, who had witnessed this scene, patted Lu Fan's shoulder sympathetically and comforted him. Lu Fan, calm down. Qingju is not a child in the ordinary sense. Now Lu Fan was suddenly glad that he had surrendered. If not, when Lung Ruoxue and Wu Jing fought, they would only become cannon fodder. This time he was surprised to find that Lung Ruoxue's strength had become even more unfathomable. Or rather, it could be said that Lung Ruoxue's strength had returned to its original state, and was undetectable by others. In addition, there was an irresistible affinity with her that made people involuntarily want to get close to her. However, the other party was his master's master, so he was afraid to get close to her. While Lu Fan was thinking to himself, Green Vessel had already received Lung Ruoxue's message. The three of them started to break the formation at the same time, and kept in contact. This God-binding great array had to be carried out simultaneously, especially when they reached the eye of the array. They had to pay more attention to the time progress between the three arrays. If there was a slight mistake, not only would all their previous efforts be in vain, but it would also alarm the fog ice. Even if the fog was alarmed, she would not be able to break in for a while with the defense formation outside the city of abandoned ruins. However, her appearance would always make people feel uncomfortable, so it was better for her not to appear. Be it Green Vessel or Tsang, they were connected to Lung Ruoxue's mind. Hence, it was much more convenient for the three of them to work together to break the formation. With Green Vessel's ability to copy, Green Vessel was basically at the same time as Lung Ruoxue. However, nothing major happened to Tsang, but small accidents happened frequently. Shui Mo, who was guiding by the side, was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat and almost fainted a few times. Azure was very calm, comforting Shui Mo not to be afraid, and telling him how to solve the formation after thinking it through. Shui Mo wanted to bang his head against the wall again. How could he not be afraid? Song almost placed the Jingshi in the wrong place several times, scaring him so much that his heart almost stopped, but Song was as if nothing had happened, extremely indifferent. Song had even told him that it was fine, and that he could just undo it again. Dear, almost 1/6 of the solution had been removed. It would only be a waste of manpower, material resources, and financial resources to start all over again. After his research, he found out that this God-binding array was definitely an array that could burn crystal stones. This was because a God-binding array required a large amount of top-grade crystal stones, whether it was to set up an array or to break it. When the fog ripple formation was first set up, it used seemingly gentle water attribute top-grade crystals. If they were to break the formation, they would need earth attribute top-grade crystals to achieve the effect of mutual promotion and restraint. The number of top-grade earth attribute crystals they had was limited. It could be said that if they were to start all over again, they would not have enough crystals. Therefore, Shui Mo's heart was in his throat with every step. Especially when he saw Tsang's nonchalant look, Shui Mo was really annoyed. Unfortunately, he was not strong enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't be willing to see Tsang scare him here. At this moment, he deeply understood the true meaning of the saying it's better to rely on yourself than on others. Shui Mo was nervous and Azure had no choice but to get serious. In fact, he really didn't think there was a need to be so nervous. Wasn't it just solving an array? So what if he failed? It did not have the thought of saving the Dragon Clan, White Tiger Clan and Phoenix Clan. It could be said that in the entire firmament, other than Lung Ruoxue, there were not many things that could make it care. However, for Lung Ruoxue's sake, it felt that it was better to be serious. Otherwise, Nyo would be angry. With the thought of making Nyo happy, Song suddenly became more careful. Seeing this, Shui Mo was quite pleased. Song's interest was piqued when he saw that 2 of the 6-pointed stars' corners had dimmed. According to Shui Mo's explanation, the 6-pointed star had 6 corners. They had to destroy the 6 corners first before they could destroy the eye of the formation together. Only then could they truly dispel the God-binding formation. The eye of the God-binding formation was still flashing red, which meant that the formation was still operating normally. After an unknown period of time, the 4 corners of the hexagram had been removed. However, as each corner of the array dimmed, the time required to remove each corner grew longer. By the time they removed the 5th corner, it had taken them about 5 days. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, Qingju and Song, who were responsible for removing the array, were already feeling a little tired. Under normal circumstances, the difficulty of breaking through was at least 3 times that of setting up a formation. However, the God-binding formation that Wuxian had set up was a top-notch formation. It was also a combination of 3 formations. Hence, the difficulty was 9 times higher. Even though Lung Ruoxue had already perfected her heaven-defying art, she still felt a strain on her. Green Vessel and Azure were the same. Chapter 2984. The End 7. After resting for a while and taking a few healing pills, the 3 of them continued to dismantle the formation. After removing the last horn, the formation eye in the center of the formation seemed to have realized something and started to flicker. Lung Ruoxue felt that something was amiss and immediately turned to the demon. "Demon, you go to the city lord's mansion and take charge." "All right." The demon nodded and left Lung Ruoxue's side reluctantly. At the same time, Wu Xiao, who was cultivating in the secret chamber of the Divine Lord's palace in Imperial City, suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Then her eyes turned cold and she disappeared from the secret chamber. By the time she arrived at the city of abandoned ruins, Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 had already broken through the last corner of the 6-pointed star God-binding array. Meanwhile, the eye of the array in the center of the array suddenly became violent. The formation's eye was set up by Wu Lian with her heart's blood, and was naturally connected to her mind. Thus, she was aware of the situation within the formation. What she didn't expect was that Lung Ruoxue would be able to break the God-binding formation to such an extent in such a short period of time. This caused her to be secretly shocked, but more than that, she was going crazy. However, as she stood outside the city gate of the city of abandoned ruins, her beautiful eyes glared at the defense formation in the sky. She felt a headache. The pain of the formation's backlash was still fresh in her mind, so she did not dare to act rashly. At this time, in addition to the evildoers in the city lord's mansion, Uncle Long and the others had also rushed back to the city lord's mansion. They couldn't help but feel a little worried when they saw Wu Xian's frantic appearance through the light screen. If the other party wanted to force his way in, he didn't know if the formation could defend against it. However, they stared nervously at the light screen for a long time, but didn't see any movement from Wu Xian. This made Uncle Long and the others deeply suspicious. "Why isn't she doing anything? What are you waiting for?" Lu Fan asked in surprise. He didn't think that Wu Han would have a more powerful helper, but the other party just stood outside without moving, which was enough to make him upset. "She's considering the pros and cons," the demon said. "If I were her, I wouldn't care about the matters here anymore. After all, even if the Phoenix, Dragon and White Tiger race were to be rescued, they wouldn't be a threat to her at all. Her only enemy is Shuer." The demon added. Everyone nodded and hoped so. After all, they were not ready to make a move yet. In reality, Wu Xian's thoughts were similar to the demoness. She was very clear that since Lung Ruoxue had already broken through most of the God-binding Great Array, no matter how she tried to salvage it, it would be useless. Besides, she would have to pay a painful price if she wanted to enter the city of Forsaken Ruins to stop Lung Ruoxue's actions. Now, she was not sure of Lung Ruoxue's strength, so she did not dare to act rashly. But if she didn't go in, what would happen to her clone? When she thought about how her clone had most likely fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands, she immediately went crazy. Through the light screen, the demon and the others saw that Wu Xiao was calm and composed for a moment, and then stomped her feet in anger the next moment. They immediately concluded that this woman was crazy. Of course, Wu Jing wasn't really crazy, but she was also quite angry. However, she knew that her clone was still alive. It was just that her strength had not fully recovered. Otherwise, she could have directly summoned her clone back. However, she had no choice at this moment because she had tried before, but it was a pity that someone had blocked her. Thanks. Without even guessing, Fogg could imagine that the one who did this was either Lung Ruoxue or Tsang. Of course, Azure's face was bigger. Uncle Long and the others didn't dare to let their guard down when they saw Wu Xian leaving. The main reason was that none of them had expected Wu Xian to give up attacking the city so easily. This was not like her. It's fine now. I'm going to find Shui. The demon was calmer than any of them. After saying that, he went to the place where Lung Ruoxue was breaking the array to accompany her. As they silently watched Lung Ruoxue fight to the death with the array core, the surrounding evildoers and beasts did not even dare to breathe loudly, afraid that they would disturb her. On the other side, other than Green Vessel, who was still rather relaxed, Song was already in a mess. Seeing Song like this, Shui Mo didn't dare to say anything. He could only remind her from time to time. This was the most critical moment. He didn't dare to disturb Song Ho when he taught her how to break the formation core, but his heart was in his throat. This was even more exciting than breaking the formation himself. After fighting with the formation eye for a long time, and feeling that it was about time, Song did not make any more big movements, and focused on waiting for Lung Ruoxue's orders. At the same time, he kept stuffing spiritual energy recovery pills into his mouth. At the same time, Green Vessel was also waiting for Lung Ruoxue's orders. Compared to these two old men who had lived for so many years, Lung Ruoxue's foundation was too shallow. She had just completed the great circle of the heaven-defying art, and the spiritual energy in her body had not fully recovered. After using up a lot of it to break the array, she felt that her spiritual energy was running out. After taking a few spiritual energy recovery pills, the spiritual energy in Lung Ruoxue's body increased by a little. Feeling depressed, she ate a few more bottles without hesitation. Lu Fan was so scared that his face turned pale. Were they eating medicinal pills? After living for so long, this was the first time he had seen someone eat medicinal pills in such a way. However, Lung Ruoxue completely ignored the surprised gazes in front of her. After swallowing a few bottles of elixirs, she did some calculations and felt that the spiritual chi should be enough to break the array eye. He sent a signal to Green Vessel and Azure, and the three of them attacked the blood-red formation core together. The formations I had already realized that it didn't have long to live, so it carried out a tenacious resistance. Under the array's resistance, it had indeed created quite a bit of trouble for Lung Ruoxue and the other two. Fortunately, the three of them were people with strong willpower, and belonged to the type of people who would become more courageous the more they were defeated. Hence, the array's stubborn resistance had instead aroused their fighting spirit. In the end, in this battle of courage and determination, the array's eye was finally defeated. The three of them were listless like frosted eggplants. When the demon saw Lung Ruoxue's state, he immediately hugged her in his arms with heartache. Uncle Long also carried Green Vessel, but no one dared to touch Green. Lying on the cold ground, Song felt extremely miserable. Come and hug it. It had no strength left. Even in his dreams, Song had never thought that breaking the formation could make him so tired. This really made him sad. What made him even sadder was that the people around him were only looking at him with a pair of innocent eyes, but no one cared about him. Thinking of his pitiful situation, Song burst into tears. At this moment, the original formation suddenly collapsed. Everyone was instantly shocked and silently gasped. Senior Tsang was getting more and more powerful. He could make the ground collapse just by crying. Chapter 2985. The end date. In fact, their thoughts made Azure feel very wronged. This had nothing to do with him, okay? It was obvious that after the array was broken, the secret chamber that was suppressed by the array could no longer be suppressed. So, don't blame it for every bad thing, okay? While Azure was feeling depressed, a few white tigers burrowed out from the ground. The white tigers' originally snow-white fur had turned black and gray, and some places were even bald. Their bodies were very weak, and they were trembling as they walked. However, when they felt the pressure on their heads disappear, they did not dare to delay and ran out. Seeing Shui Mo and the others, a dirty white tiger asked, It was you guys who saved our White Tiger clan? You're the White Tiger King. Shui Mo's eyes widened as he looked at the White Tiger in disbelief. In his memory, the White Tiger King was the most narcissistic and vain one. Now that it had become like this, could it take it? However, Shui Mo was overthinking. Just as the high priest of the Phoenix tribe had said, they would leave this place sooner or later. Therefore, their primary goal was to stay alive. Although it had never liked to listen to that fraud's words, it could not deny that what that fraud said was right. Today, their White Tiger clan finally saw the light of day again. Although it was still dark outside the underground secret room, the air was fresh. How long had it been since they had breathed in fresh air? After taking a few deep breaths of fresh air, the White Tiger King said with a look of admiration, I can't believe that there are still people who recognize me after being locked up for so long. Hearing this, Shui Mo really wanted to say that he didn't know him. But now, it was obvious that this old white tiger didn't recognize him. Shui Mo. Shui Mo introduced himself with a sigh. Arg. You're little Shui Mo? Hee hee. I won't be able to recognize you even if you turn into a human. The White Tiger King laughed pervertedly. Shui Mo's forehead was covered in sweat. He didn't know this guy, definitely not. Shui Mo felt so embarrassed. Why would he run to the place where the White Tiger race was locked up in a fit of hot-headedness? He must have opened his eyes in the wrong way today, otherwise he wouldn't have made such a choice. Shui Mo was filled with regret. However, the White Tiger King didn't seem to notice Shui Mo's conflicted thoughts. Instead, it took a step forward and stretched out its huge claw, wanting to touch Shui Mo and take a good look at him. However, just as its claws were about to touch Shui Mo, a deafening shriek was heard. Arg! My tail! Then Shui Mo saw a flash of white light, and it pounced on the White Tiger Patriarch. In the blink of an eye, all the fur on the White Tiger King's body was plucked out. There were also countless claw marks on its body, and blood was flowing out. On the other hand, the White Tiger King was howling in pain. However, it was currently being suppressed by the Azure and could not move at all. Although the two beasts were a little weak, the Azure bloodline's level was above the White Tiger King's. Thus, with a single wave of its pressure, the White Tiger King could only let the other party bully it, and did not dare to act rashly. Thanks, the other white tigers saw that their king was being attacked and were about to step forward, but they saw Tsong raise a small paw and gently blow at the gray fur that was still stuck between the claws. He glanced at them again, and the white tigers instantly didn't dare to move. One must know that although the White Tiger clan had been suppressed for a long time, and their strength had been greatly reduced, the pressure was still there. But now, they were completely suppressed by a cat. Even if it was a white tiger with a strong will, it would not be able to withstand such a serious blow, right? This really hurt the White Tiger clan's pride too much. The few white tigers present were all figures of the White Tiger race's ancestors. Now that they had been suppressed in a single move, it was simply an unprecedented scene. Furthermore, it didn't seem like they had done anything. How did the king get attacked? That's right, the king stepped on this kitten's tail. Senior, can you please let King go? It didn't do it on purpose. A rather tactful white tiger pleaded and winked at Shui Mo. It was obvious that Shui Mo recognized this cat, but Shui Mo replied with a helpless expression. After offending Senior Tsong, other than Lung Ruoxua, no one else would be able to ask for this favor. He was starting to pity the White Tiger King. I just wanted to touch him, but I accidentally stepped on Senior Tsong's tail. Sigh. He really didn't know what to say. It could only be said that the White Tiger King was really unlucky. When Azure heard the other white tiger's plea, he only snorted coldly and arrogantly used the white tiger on top of him as a meat cushion, lying on top of it with ease. Seeing this, the white tigers could only look at their king with pity and depression. The White Tiger King wanted to cry. It couldn't understand why this was happening. At the same time, Lung Ruoxua's side was bustling with activity, earning many people's tears. Her place happened to be the place where the Phoenix clan was imprisoned, and the majority of her beasts were phoenixes. Therefore, after breaking the seal and rescuing all the phoenixes who had been suppressed, the phoenixes hugged each other and held their heads in pain. When they had cried enough, they suddenly remembered that they had not thanked their savior yet. The entire Feng clan, led by Feng Wu, felt extremely ashamed. They quickly went to Lung Ruoxue and knelt down in unison. "Thank you, Master, for saving my life. We were a little slow just now. Please forgive us." "It's okay, I understand." Why would Lung Ruoxue pick a fight with them? She was still weak. Looking at the phoenix that was speaking, Lung Ruoxue guessed that it should be the Phoenix King. This Phoenix King was indeed much stronger than the one in the immortal realm. At least, they were not on the same level in terms of temperament. However, after being suppressed for so long, this Phoenix King's strength was already so low that it was unbearable to look at. Just as Lung Ruoxue was thinking about how to quickly restore these phoenixes' powers, she felt the rules of the contract descend. The phoenixes that were rescued had taken the initiative to recognize their master. Lung Ruoxue did not expect them to be so forthright, but she immediately felt at ease. The mother parasol tree often contacted the Phoenix King, so it was only natural that she knew about her situation. As for Green Vessel's side, as compared to the bustling scene at Lung Ruoxue's side, Song's side was speechless, and his side was relatively quiet. After the Dragon Clan was rescued, they were at a loss for how to react when they saw that the one who saved them was actually a little baby. Moreover, the Dragon Clan had some cold-blooded characteristics. Therefore, all the humans and beasts present were silent and looked at each other with big eyes. Qingju didn't like to speak either. He just lay in Uncle Long's arms and closed his eyes without saying a word. Chapter 2986. The End 9. He was too tired. While they were acknowledging their relatives and glaring at each other, Wuxian, who was far away in the secret chamber of the God Lord's estate, spat out another mouthful of blood. He was once again devoured by the array. She knew that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had already released the God-binding array and rescued the dragon, phoenix and white tiger race. Although she hated it, but she was powerless to stop it now. He didn't care about the three clans. At this moment, she could clearly sense a sense of danger. She felt that if she did not recover her powers as soon as possible, she would not be able to gain an advantage in the confrontation with Lung Ruoxue. This was something she absolutely could not tolerate. Wu Xian smashed the few decorations in the secret room into pieces in a frenzy. Then, she spat out a few more mouthfuls of blood before she calmed down. After calming down for a long time, she decided to continue healing. "Men, bring my food in," Wu Xian loudly ordered. In less than a minute, a few men in black escorted dozens of men and women into the secret room. Looking at the food brought in, Wu Yan was not very satisfied. In fact, what she wanted to eat the most was the strong, but the strong were extremely precious, so she could not bear to eat them. Therefore, she could only eat these humans who did not taste very good. He extended a vine and wrapped it around one of the men, then stabbed the sharp thorn into the man's body. In an instant, the man's originally plump body shriveled up. This scene frightened the other men and women who were brought in, and the less courageous ones even fainted. "A bunch of useless trash. It's your honor to be my food." Ripple's beautiful eyes swept across the area, looking at the ants present. Who are you?" The one who spoke was actually a woman. Although her expression was also very ugly, she still mustered up the courage to ask. "I am God Lord Fog Ripple." Ripple laughed as she replied. "No. This was impossible. Lady Wuxian is the lord of the divine realm. How could she be so vicious?" The woman's face was filled with disbelief. "The lord of the divine realm? That's right, if it was any other time, I wouldn't have laid my hands on the two of you. If you want to blame someone, then blame Lung Ruoxue, who asked her to cause me to be injured and even pose a great threat to me. If I don't eat you, how can I recover my strength?" Wu Xian said as if it was a matter of course. The woman had heard of Lung Ruoxue's name before, but she did not agree with Wu Xian's words. She did not expect that a divine master would be so shameless. This was truly too shocking. And it was so disappointing. After hearing Wu Xiao's words, the woman immediately closed her mouth and no longer spoke. She deeply felt that there was no reason to reason with a lunatic. Seeing that the other party didn't speak, and even showed her a disdainful look, Fog Ripple couldn't help but burn with anger. Next, she stretched out the vine towards the woman, who closed her eyes and waited silently. Who knew that Fog Ripple would suddenly change direction and target the person next to the woman? Since you're not afraid of death, I'll let you die last. Wuxian laughed wildly. When the woman heard this, she wanted to call her a lunatic, but she gave up after thinking about it. She deeply felt that if she really scolded him, she was afraid that it would only make this lunatic, Wu Yan, more and more proud. However, as the number of strangers around her slowly decreased, no matter how strong the woman's will was, she finally couldn't take it and collapsed. Quickly eat me. Quickly eat me. A Tao that a woman couldn't stand. This was really too torturous. She really regretted it. Why did she have to provoke this lunatic? As you wish. Wu Xian laughed complacently and extended the rattan towards the woman. Then she ordered her subordinates. There are too few people. They're not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Continue to arrest people for me. Thanks, yes. The subordinate of the man in black immediately responded and turned to leave. When he arrived at Qingju's place, he saw Qingju and the rest staring at the old dragons. The atmosphere was rather strange. What's the situation? Lung Ruoxua asked directly. Sister, these old dragons don't believe that I saved them, so they're competing with me to see whose eyes are bigger. However, I don't have the energy to compete with them. I'm so tired and I want to sleep. Qingju complained. Yes, I want to sleep too. Lung Ruoxua gently touched Qingju's head. Old Phoenix, you guys are out too? Suddenly Lung Ruoxua and the others heard a surprised voice. Then they saw Feng Wu's roar. Your sister. Who are you calling Old Phoenix? I'm much younger than you, you stinky dragon. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxua and the others, who had always thought that Feng Wu was an elegant and noble man, were all dumbfounded. This was Feng Wu? Image. Pay attention to your image. Don't be like a shrew, okay? The dragon reminded. You're the shrew, your whole family are shrews. Feng Wu hadn't even reacted to the dragon's words when Feng Zhan gave up. Who are you? You dare to scold me? A certain dragon's face was filled with disbelief, as if he had heard something he shouldn't have said. Feng Wu, on the other hand, smiled in satisfaction and said, Old dragon, this is my son. After saying this, she turned around and touched the feathers on Feng Zhan's body. She praised. Good son, well scolded. Son. The dragon stammered. As far as he knew, his rival only had 5 daughters and 1 son. Didn't he die? Seeing through the dragon's thoughts, the Phoenix King rolled her eyes at him and said, How can my bloodline die so easily? Haven't you heard of the nirvana of the phoenix? Of course, Feng Zhan wasn't a phoenix that had gone through nirvana, although it was still an egg at that time, and it was extremely dangerous to be exiled. She believed that no matter how difficult the environment was, her son would definitely be able to survive. As it turned out, its son did not disappoint it. Not only did he successfully find a master, but he had also advanced to the Venerate Emperor level. Its son had already become its greatest pride. When the dragon heard this, he had to admit that the Phoenix tribe was indeed more fortunate than the dragon tribe. After watching them bicker for a while, Lung Ruoxua then led the rest of the group to look for Tsang. Putting aside how miserable the White Tiger clan was, just looking at how they were currently being oppressed by Azure, it was definitely enough to kill the other 2 clans in seconds. Old White Cat, you're being bullied by a little cat. TSK, what a tragedy. A certain dragon saw a small white cat lying on the White Tiger King's body, forming a sharp contrast with the White Tiger King's dirty appearance, and couldn't help but laugh and make fun of it. Old Earthworm, you're still alive? The White Tiger King's eyelids twitched as he spoke. At this moment, it was already quite calm because it was indeed no match for this cat. At the same time, he also sighed. He hadn't appeared in the immortal realm for too long. It was really like a tiger falling into the sun and being bullied by a cat. Chapter 2987. The End 10. Of course I'm still alive. I'm sorry to disappoint you. A certain dragon said with a smile. Then he walked in front of Azure and praised. Little kitty, you did well. You deserve praise. Hearing this, Azure raised his head and glanced at the dragon, then spat out a word. Get lost. The dragon was dumbfounded. It was being told to get lost by a cat? This really hurt the dragon's pride. Shueimo couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of the stunned dragon. Human, what are you laughing at? The dragon said rudely. Blind dragon, you're the human. Shueimo's face darkened. So it's not a human. The dragon was not too stupid and quickly reacted. However, why did Shueimo feel so awkward when he heard the other party say that he was not human? Shueimo shut his mouth. He's really blind, he can't even tell it's a Qilin. Song Yin smiled. Qilin? I've never heard of any Qilin being caught by that old woman, Wu Cheng. The dragon said in surprise. In fact, it couldn't be blamed for its poor eyesight. Normally, unless it was a familiar companion, it was really difficult for them to see through the identity of other beasts in human form. Shueimo was obviously stronger than the dragon, so it was not hard to understand that the dragon did not expect Shueimo to be a beast. However, at this moment, Azure didn't like this stupid dragon, so he wanted to find trouble with it. Now that he heard its words, Azure directly said, Do you think the Qilin clan is as stupid as you three clans? Not only was he tricked by the ripple of fog, but he was also captured. And now you've caused us to waste our divine power to save you. Humph. In the future, even if you sell your three clans to us, it won't be enough to compensate for our losses. Song's tone was not good at all, and he had offended the three races. However, the White Tiger King had been bullied by Song ever since he was freed. Therefore, he didn't dare to refute Song's bold words. Fengwu only felt a little embarrassed, but he also felt that Song was right. They were indeed stupid. In addition, it had also guessed that this little white cat must have a deep relationship with its owner, so it was also very observant. Only a certain dragon was immediately angered by Azure's words and pointed at Azure Fire, shouting, I don't even know when the cat race became so bold. Since you're not afraid of me, then do you dare to fight me one-on-one? Hearing that a certain dragon was going to fight it one-on-one, Lung Ruoxue and the rest mourned for it for 3 seconds out of sympathy. This was definitely the rhythm of seeking death. You want to fight me one-on-one? Acknowledging my girl as your master? Song Qing lifted his eyelids and asked calmly, I haven't. The dragon replied in a daze. It had only just seen Lung Ruoxue and was brought here. It had not even thought about recognizing her as its master. Speaking of which, in terms of judgment and self-awareness, the dragon race was definitely not comparable to the phoenix race and the white tiger race. As for the Qilin race, they would not be able to catch up even if they tried to flatter them. The dragon race was known for being good for nothing, eating a lot, having a lot of strength but no brains at all. Of course, the dragon race would never admit to such comments from the outside world. But now, it was clearly proving that the dragon race indeed lived up to its reputation. Then I'm relieved. Azure nodded. Don't worry about what? A certain dragon didn't understand, but Lung Ruoxue and the rest understood in a second. When Song said don't worry, he meant that they could beat him up to their heart's content. Thanks. Azure didn't explain further, and directly scratched the dragon's thick skin. In the beginning, the dragon didn't take it seriously. It thought that it was just a kitten. How sharp could its claws be? With this thought in mind, it didn't even try to dodge and just wanted to take the hit with its thick skin. In addition to the dragon, the other members of the dragon and phoenix races who had been rescued were also shocked. In comparison, the white tiger race, who had already witnessed the fearsomeness of the Azure Sea, were much calmer. The White Tiger King was especially happy to have a beast to keep it company. Hee. This old earthworm has finally tasted the power of that terrifying kitten. He deserved it. While the White Tiger King was gloating in his heart, the dragon that was attacked by the Azure Dragon was in an extremely miserable state. It really regretted provoking this cat. He had wanted to fight with the other party one-on-one, thinking that he could show off the might of the Dragon Emperor. Who knew that he would be taken care of by a cat? This time he had lost a lot of face. The dragon cried out in pain, and was secretly worried. It jumped up and down to avoid Song's attacks, but Song was extremely agile. No matter how the dragon dodged, it could only scratch the other party. This fact made the dragon feel depressed. In fact, it would have been fine if they were evenly matched, but the key was that the battle was one-sided. The dragon could only be scratched passively without any chance to fight back. How could it not be depressed? It wasn't until a certain dragon's body was covered in wounds and a terrible sight that Song stopped with satisfaction. A certain dragon, who was greatly stimulated, sadly burrowed into a corner and drew circles, wanting to curse that there would be no fish to eat in the blue. You bastard! I don't eat fish. Aware of a certain dragon's thoughts, Azure Fire roared. If I want to eat, I'll only eat what Nyo makes. I like to eat dragons, Azure said through gritted teeth. Upon hearing this, all the Longquans present were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They immediately hid far away to avoid being targeted by Tsong. Seeing this scene, Lung Ruoxue was helpless. She hugged Song and coaxed, "All right, Azure, don't scare them. For Nyo's sake, I'll let you off for now. Oh, remember this. I'll be your boss in the future," Song said fiercely. He had to first confirm his position so that these guys wouldn't be confused about the situation. "I'm the one." At this moment, a weak voice was heard and a small head popped out of Shui Mo's arms. "And you are?" Song coldly glanced at him, and the little black head was so scared that it went back into Shui Mo's arms. Shui Mo smiled helplessly. The beast deity was like a mouse seeing a cat when he saw Senior Tsong. He didn't know what to say. "Baby, so you're here with Shui Mo. I thought you left with Ice Spirit." Lung Ruoxue exclaimed in surprise when she saw the little black beast. She didn't know why her baby was always avoiding it. It was really not easy to see her. What Lung Ruoxue didn't know was that Bao Bao wasn't hiding from her. But under Tsong's threat, Bao Bao didn't dare to appear in front of her easily. When she saw Lung Ruoxue, Baby Su's aggrieved eyes immediately welled up with tears. She looked at Lung Ruoxue pitifully and called out softly, "Sister, I missed you so much." Chapter 2988. The End 11. Sister also misses the baby. Lung Ruoxue laughed as she reached out to hug Baby. However, Baby saw Tsong glaring at him from Lung Ruoxue's arms, so he could only purse his lips and avoid her. "Woo. Can't I enjoy my sister's warm embrace anymore?" Baby Su was unusually sad, but Lung Ruoxue didn't understand why. She thought that Baby Su didn't like her anymore, and her heart started to hurt as well. The atmosphere suddenly froze. The low pressure from Lung Ruoxue's body caused the beasts around her to feel a great deal of pressure. At this time, Feng Wu, who had been wanting to speak, gathered up her courage and said excitedly, "Boss, I finally get to see you. Little Wu." The baby called out softly, and returned to Shui Mo's arms. Seeing it like this, Feng Wu was very surprised. It looked at Song in its master's arms and stretched out its wings to take the baby into its arms. "Boss Wu." A certain dragon also looked at the baby while crying bitterly. The two beasts communicated silently with their eyes, and everything was conveyed without words. Now the dragon could feel the fear of its boss. This cat was definitely not a normal cat. Which cat wouldn't be afraid when it saw the king of the four king divine beasts? Besides, their boss was a beast god, but their boss' natural suppression of the beast race had no effect on the cat. What did this mean? It meant that the cat was no ordinary beastie. In any case, it would be very, very difficult to make it believe that the cat's bloodline was above boss. It had to be said that at this moment, the dragon knew the truth. Unfortunately, it realized it too late, and it only realized it after being beaten up by Tsong. If it had thought of this earlier, it might not have been beaten up. As for now, the beating would definitely be in vain. However, seeing that its boss was as obedient as a little mouse in front of that cat, it instantly decided to stay far away from this cat in the future. After the three teams had gathered, in order to make it easier for Lung Ruoxue and the other two, as well as the beasts from the three clans who had been suppressed for many years, to recuperate, they temporarily stayed in the city lord's residence in the city of Wasteland. Other than reuniting with their clansmen, a certain dragon also took this time to secretly ask Uncle Long about Song's identity. Seeing that the dragon had pulled him to a corner just to find out Song's identity, Uncle Long stared at the dragon for a long time. When he was about to see its fur, Uncle Long said calmly, "Senior Tsong is the spirit of the god protecting pagoda, so you'd better be obedient. Otherwise, Senior Tsong won't care if you're the dragon emperor or not, and will beat you up without hesitation." The spirit of the god protecting tower? Is it the one I know? The dragon asked carefully. Could there be a second god protecting pagoda in this world? Uncle Long blinked and laughed to himself. It seemed that this old dragon was quite frightened by Senior Tsong. Probably not. It's really that. The dragon still couldn't believe this fact and asked with certainty. Yes. Otherwise, why would the beast god baby not even dare to make a sound in front of Senior Tsong? Isn't that enough proof? Uncle Long asked with a smile. That's enough to prove it. A certain kind of gloominess said. He really felt that he had been deceived. It turned out that the cat was not a real cat. Woo! Why did he pretend to be a weak little beast to deceive the public? He even tricked me into fighting the cat one-on-one. In the end, I'm covered in wounds and I don't even have a chance to fight back. The dragon's regret increased even more, and his heart couldn't be any angrier. Thanks, Use. Hurry up and tell me. The dragon quickly said. First, be good. Second, don't go against Senior Tsong's wishes. Third, which is also the most important one, you must listen to Shui-er. Uncle Long counted his fingers as he spoke. Why do you listen to Shui-er? The dragon was puzzled. Even if it had recognized a master, it felt that it should have dragon rights. What's more, it had not recognized a master yet. Because Shui-er is Senior Tsong's master. Senior Tsong is the most obedient to Shui-er. Uncle Long said with a smile. Arg. Really? The dragon was shocked. Back then, even Master Yu failed to make the Guardian Tower spirit recognize him as its master. He didn't expect Lung Ruoxua to actually do it. How could I lie to you about that? By the way, you still don't know that Shui-er is Master Yes' disciple, right? Uncle Long threw out another bombshell, which directly made a certain dragon dizzy and shake its head repeatedly. It didn't know. I just heard. So quickly recognize me as your master. With Shui-er as your backing, Senior Tsong will definitely show you mercy when he beats you up. Uncle Long suggested with a smile. Of course, it would recognize its master, but if that was the purpose of recognizing its master, why did the dragon feel that the reason for recognizing its master was particularly awkward? Shouldn't it be because Lung Ruoxua had saved their clan that they recognized her as their master? It could accept the reason that the other party was Master Yes' disciple, but it was somewhat unable to accept it. But it couldn't deny that this reason was very attractive to it. The main thing was that it could also tell that the cat didn't like it. Seeing that the dragon was still hesitating, Uncle Long patted him on the shoulder and said, Think about it carefully. There's no time to lose. You know Senior Tsong has a very bad temper. Who knows when he'll flip out again? After saying this, Uncle Long left gracefully, leaving a certain dragon in a daze. After a while, the dragon came back to its senses and quickly told its people what it had heard. Then it went to find the Phoenix King and the White Tiger King. When it saw the two Beast Kings, it quickly told them what Uncle Long had told it. After Feng Wu heard this, she smiled and said, Our Phoenix clan has already recognized a master. What? When did this happen? How come we didn't know about it? A certain dragon and the White Tiger King were both enraged upon hearing this. Feng Wu was actually acting alone, and this really hurt their hearts. Sob. They were allies. How could they be treated like this? Back then, when they had just been locked up, they could still communicate with each other. At that time, the old psychic of the Phoenix clan had clearly told them that they would definitely be rescued, and that the person who saved them would be their future master. At that time, the two Beast Kings did not take his words too seriously. They only thought that he was comforting them. After all, Fog Ice was so powerful that it could even kill a divine master. Who else was more powerful than a divine master? However, after they were rescued, they were a little dumbfounded. Because the ones who saved their two races were a little baby and a cat, the matter of recognizing their masters was delayed. After a certain dragon found out that the little boy and Lung Ruoxua were together, He had the intention of acknowledging Lung Ruoxue as his master. However, at that time, Lung Ruoxue was in a hurry to go to another place, so the acknowledgement process was delayed. As for the White Tiger King, it was beaten up by Tsang before it could even speak to Shui Mo. Therefore, its mind was in a mess at that time and it didn't even think about it. Now that Feng Wu said that it had already recognized its master, the two Beast Kings were dumbfounded. Chapter 2989. The End 12. A feeling of being abandoned slowly rose from the bottom of their hearts. The two Beast Kings felt that their fragile glass hearts had been completely hurt. After clearing his throat, Feng Wu said in a depressed manner, "Why are you guys looking at me like that? When Master recuperates, you can recognize him as your master." In fact, it didn't want to get rid of these two guys when it recognized him as its master, but it just happened to be a coincidence. And these two guys obviously didn't have such a good opportunity. However, it did not feel guilty at all. Who asked these two guys to be so blind? Just coming out and going against cold first. Who could he blame? We can only wait for Master to rest. The two Beast Kings were helpless and could only wait calmly. At the same time, he could also get to know more about the people around his future master. However, after understanding the identity and strength of the people around Lung Ruoxue, they sadly realized that they were noobs when they were around their master. The dragon did not expect that the little boy it saw back then was actually a cosmic bangle. Although Green Vessel's appearance was not quite the same as the one it had seen many years ago, it believed that no one would dare to pretend to be that bangle. Otherwise, it would have been captured by the Rhymice old woman long ago. As for the identity of the demonic man who had been protecting their future master, they had also found out that he was the mistress of the Dark World, Wu, the lord of the Netherworld prison, who was as famous as Lord Yu, but more cold-blooded, heartless, ruthless, and brutal than Lord Yu. Sob. This identity is so scary. However, was the person they saw really the mistress of the Dark World? Why was it different from the rumors? Didn't they say that the Dark Lord was cold-blooded? Who was that guy who was smiling like an idiot in front of his future master? Didn't they say that the mistress of the Dark World was heartless and ruthless? But how could that person be heartless at all? Was it brutal? Of course. This was mainly reflected in the fact that as long as they had the slightest intention of getting close to their future master, that person would immediately give them a warning look. All in all, the mistress of the Dark World was seriously inconsistent with the one in the rumors. The Dark Lord, who ate your integrity. Don't take over the future master all by yourself. The demon's food protection caused the two old beasts, who wanted to get close to Lung Ruoxue and please their future master, to be deeply worried. After trying a few times, the two old beasts had no choice but to give up. It seemed that he could only wait for his master to recover first. While Lung Ruoxue, Qingju, and Song were trying their best to recover, the beasts from the three clans who had been imprisoned for a long time were also trying their best to recover. However, it was not something that could be done in a short period of time. After all, they had been imprisoned for so many years, and the beasts from the three clans had suffered great losses. Hence, it would take a long time. Originally, if Green Vessel was willing to move them into the bracelet, it would definitely be of great help to their recovery. However, Green Vessel was too arrogant and resented them for causing him to return to the poverty line right after he recovered his strength. Therefore, he was angry and directly refused to accept them. If she wanted to get into the bracelet, she would have to wait until they recovered. Just like that, Lung Ruoxue and the rest stayed in the city lord's residence in the city of abandoned ruins for a few months. After the three of them had recovered, Qingju was merciful and moved the three beasts into the bracelet. Of course, before they were moved into the bracelet, the orcs from the dragon race and the white tiger race, who had finally gotten a chance to get close to their future masters, unhesitatingly acknowledged them as their masters. At the same time, they had to be wary of the secret mistress attack. Thanks to their surprise, before they could return to Demon City, they received a message from Lung Ruhan and the others, saying that they were about to be robbed. Upon hearing that someone dared to raid Demon City, the team immediately rushed toward their destination joyfully. At this moment, Lung Ruhan and the others were stopped in the middle of a road less than 10,000 meters away from Demon City. Although this road was not the only way to Demon City, there were usually a lot of people on it. However, there were only a few of them on the wide road, so it seemed rather deserted. Looking at the man in black opposite him, Chengwu raised his brows. He purposely put on a fearful expression and asked, "Are you guys trying to rob me?" "That's right." The leader of the men in black nodded. However, they didn't rob him of his wealth or his body. They robbed him of his people. "We have no money," Chengwu said as he clutched his storage ring nervously. The corner of the leader's mouth twitched a few times, and his heart was in turmoil. "If you don't have money, why are you holding onto your storage ring?" Wasn't this clearly showing that he had nothing to hide? "We don't rob." The man in black gritted his teeth and explained. However, Chengwu was even more worried after hearing that. He howled and scared the men in black. "What are you howling for? For whom are you howling?" The leader of the men in black said, "Wu, are you guys trying to rape me?" Chengwu clutched at his shirt and was so scared that his entire body was trembling and his face was pale. "We don't rape. Even if he wanted to rape someone, he wouldn't rape you." The leader of the men in black was a little mad when he heard Wan Wu's words. On the other hand, Lung Ruhan, Lung Qingtian, and the others who were at the side were laughing in their hearts when they heard this. "That's hard to say." Chengwu had a look of disbelief. "Don't worry. I definitely won't rape her." The leader of the black-robed men was so angry that he shouted, "You're really not going to rob?" Chengwu asked cautiously. "I won tea." The leader of the men in black guaranteed. "Since that's the case, we'll be leaving. You don't have to send us off." After he finished speaking, Chengwu gave Lung Ruhan and the others a look. Everyone had the same thought and decided to leave. "Wait. Who allowed you to leave? Didn't you hear me say I'm going to rob you?" When the leader of the black-robed men saw that the other party was really leaving, he was immediately dumbfounded. After he came to his senses, he immediately blocked Chengwu and the others and roared, "You guys are not robbing us of money or sex, so there's nothing to rob. If we don't leave, are we going to stay and chat with you?" Chengwu said matter-of-factly, "We're going to kidnap him." The leader of the men in black roared again after hearing Chengwu's words. "You don't even want to rape her, and you want to rape her?" Chengwu was unable to understand. "Right." The leader of the men in black nodded. "Give me a reason." Chengwu said with a, "I won't leave with you if you don't give me a reason." "No reason." The leader of the men in black roared and couldn't help but curse in his heart. Did the Divine Master's estate need a reason to arrest someone? If it wasn't for his lord's increasing need for human blood, they wouldn't have wanted to wait for a rabbit on the road. But the rabbit in front of them was obviously not easy to manipulate. Of course, the leader of the men in black did not dare to reveal his identity. Otherwise, the Divine Master's estate would become the public enemy of the Divine Realm. However, just because he didn't say anything, it didn't mean that Chengwu and the others didn't recognize their standard. Other than that old woman, Wu Yan, no one else could train such a stupid subordinate of the man in black. Chapter 2990. The End 13. You have no reason to think that we will leave with you. Are you trying to kidnap a silly boy? Chengwu's expression immediately changed when he heard that. Humph. Brat, you have to leave no matter what. The leader of the men in black saw that the other party was disobedient and could only threaten him. In his eyes, these few people were so weak that it would be as easy as stepping on a few ants to kill them. Therefore, he did not take Lung Ruhan and the others seriously at all. He would never have thought that they had hidden their strength and were pretending to be weak to eat the tiger. Yo. Did he become angry out of embarrassment and threaten her? Young master, old master, someone is trying to rob us. What should we do? After Feng De finished speaking to the man in black, he turned around to seek Lung Ruhan and Lung Qingshan's opinion, who knew that Lung Ruhan didn't even raise her head. Lung Qingtian also looked up at the sky with a nonchalant expression. Seeing them like this, Chengwu didn't say anything either, and the atmosphere became cold. Seeing this, the leader of the men in black was furious. He turned around and shouted, "Capture these ants." The men in black immediately took action. One of the men in black was sent flying the moment he got close to Cheng Wu. It's so lively. At this moment, a melodious female voice entered the ears of everyone present. All the black-clothed people turned their heads in unison. And then all of them were like stone statues, stiff and motionless. The men in black were wailing in their hearts. Oh, they were finished. Finished. How did he meet this demon? There was no one in black who did not recognize Lung Ruoxue. Furthermore, in their hearts, Lung Ruoxue's scariness was comparable to their master. No. He's even more terrifying than his lord. At the very least, his lord would not easily take their lives, but Lung Ruoxue would. The man in black, who had never expected to meet Lung Ruoxue here, was so depressed that his heart broke. Miss, they want to rob us. They want to rob people. The moment Cheng Wu saw Lung Ruoxue, he immediately complained. You dare to rob my people? Does that fog ripple bitch want to start a war right now? Lung Ruoxue turned to ask the leader of the men in black. You your people? They're your people? When the leader of the men in black heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he finally reacted and asked in disbelief. Then he specially added, Young Lady Lung, you've got the wrong person. We're not God Lord Fog Ripple's men. The leader of the men in black was filled with regret. How did it end up in Lung Ruoxue's hands? He was really unlucky. At the same time, he began to regret his decision to kidnap her on this road. He knew that Demon City was very close to here, yet he still harbored hopes of getting away with it. Great, now he had run into the 10,000-year dark iron plate. That's right. Let me introduce them to you. They are my grandfather, brother, and subordinates. As for whether you admit to being a member of Rime Ice or not, that's not important to me. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. That's right, Shuer, just directly crack it. Uncle Long nodded in agreement. When the men in black heard this, their faces turned pale with fear. Lung Ruoxue even smiled in an extremely friendly manner. Don't worry, I won't kill you so easily. However, don't think that I'll let you go. By the way, do you want to test my medicine or die from torture? Choose one. Thanks, is there a third choice? The leader of the men in black asked carefully. The man in black was silent. He was extremely unwilling in his heart. Was he going to just surrender like this? From the corner of his eye, he swept his gaze across Lung Ruoxue's group. He saw Uncle Long rubbing his palms together, Dong Fengyu with a faint smile, the snow-white cat with its sharp claws, a cute little boy who was also staring at him with an unfriendly expression, and the countless beasts who were eager to try. On his side, more than half of the dozens of men in black were like frost-beaten eggplants, shriveled up like dehydrated vegetables. Let's not talk about combat power, just the difference in numbers alone made the leader of the men in black not know how to continue this fight with the other party. Wu, this is too much of a bully. I choose to test the medicine. The leader of the men in black surrendered helplessly when he saw the difference in strength between the two sides. In his opinion, at least he wouldn't die from the test. It was better than dying from torture. Unfortunately, he was wrong. He only wanted to live. How could he know that testing medicine was the real thing that made life worse than death? However, Lung Ruoxue was rather satisfied with his choice. A wise man knows how to practice, and surrendering was the right choice. It just so happened that a while ago, Lui Wei Shenhua and Jiang Ning had been complaining to her that there was no one to test the medicine on. And as a result, Wu Yan had just sent them over. Young Miss is getting more and more domineering. With just one move, these guys surrendered. After deciding on the man in black's fate, Cheng Wu immediately flattered him. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she felt a little speechless. She thought to herself, this isn't my credit, it's the advantage of numbers that helped me. After easily settling the small dispute, Lung Ruoxue and the rest brought the men in black who had surrendered and returned to Demon City in a grandiose manner. This news was quickly reported to Wu Yan. After knowing that her subordinate had been caught by Lung Ruoxue, Ripple Mist was furious. She glared at the leader of the men in black who was in charge of this matter and shouted, "How did you arrange their work? You know that it's so close to Demon City, yet you still dare to let them catch you there." Master, that road leads to several major cities. The flow of people is very large, so it's the best place to catch people. This time, they were unlucky to have bumped into Lung Ruoxue and the others. The leader explained, "Don't capture them on the road. Just capture the people from the major families." After thinking for a while, Wuxia ordered. The leader of the men in black heard this and quickly tried to stop him. "Master, if we do this, we will cause public anger." What was it that they had not dared to make any big moves all this time? Isn't it to maintain the positive image of his lord? If they really captured the people from the big families, then they really couldn't hide anything. "Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who resist me will perish." Now it's time for those crafty major forces to make a choice. Fog Ripple laughed coldly. Now that things had come to this, there was no way she would leave those forces to Lung Ruoxue. That was why she wanted her subordinates to capture all of them. Those who submitted to her would naturally be able to live, and those who resisted would become her food. This was a win-win solution, so why not? Wu Xian was very satisfied with her own idea. This was a time when she needed people. Although the reverent god-level cultivators under her were getting fewer and fewer, if she had the help of the other major forces, she believed that her chances of winning the life and death battle with Lung Ruoxue would be much higher. However, she knew that the biggest variable on Lung Ruoxue's side was Tsang, and the mistress of the dark world. However, what she was most worried about was Azure. After all, Azure belonged to the divine realm. If Azure didn't care and insisted on attacking, even the laws of the world wouldn't be able to restrain it. She wasn't afraid of the mistress of the dark world. After all, the mistress of the dark world belonged to the Nine Nether prison. She believed that the other party wouldn't risk the collapse of the space and stick his nose into other people's business. Otherwise, she would have a bigger headache. Chapter 2991. The End 14. How could he make Azure not act? Wu Jing's head was spinning, but she couldn't think of a good way. The leader of the men in black, who had received her order, saw that her lord had made up her mind and could only carry it out. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had already returned to Demon City. After handing over the group of men in black to Jiang Ning and the other two, she went back into the bracelet and started cultivating. Even though her body had almost fully recovered, the spiritual energy in her body was still insufficient. In order to deal with Wu Ling, the spiritual energy in her body had to be abundant. Hence, Lung Ruoxue did not want to waste any more time. Just like Wu Ling's premonition, she was also clear that it would not be long before the two of them would truly fight. Lung Ruoxue was absorbing spirit chi in her bracelet while Uncle Long and the others were busy preparing for the battle. First of all, they had to properly arrange for the personnel below the God Emperor rank in Demon City. They didn't wish for any accidents to happen to them while they were preparing for battle. After all, that shameless fellow Rhyme was capable of doing anything. After some discussion, Uncle Long and the others decided on a house as the best place to settle them down. After the owner of the house, a certain Grass, found out about this, he was very unwilling. The main thing was that he did not want a group of strangers to live in his territory. It was so inconvenient. However, after Uncle Long told him that this was Shui Er's idea, the Grass immediately agreed with a charming smile. Uncle Long was helpless after the incident. Fortunately, the Grass listened to Shui Er. Otherwise, he really didn't know what to do. After these matters were discussed, everyone split up. Uncle Long, Dongfang Yu Mu Li, as well as Kankus Armament Guild headquarters and Alchemy Guild headquarters, were responsible for receiving people. Dongfang Lin was responsible for sending messages to the various forces. When the other forces heard that there would be a big operation, their hearts trembled. They knew what the other party meant without saying it. However, none of them had expected this news to come so suddenly. However, after receiving the news, they quickly took action. Although Demon City had only given them 100 slots, it was still better than nothing. At the very least, if something were to happen in the future, these 100 people would be enough to pass down the bloodline of their families. It could be said that the factions that were on good terms with Demon City knew their own limitations. None of them had the thought that the other party had to ensure the safety of their entire family. After all, that was too unrealistic. The other party wasn't their parents, so why should they control their entire family? It was a favor that the other party was willing to inform them before the operation, not an obligation. Most importantly, they had a good relationship with Demon City, so they considered benefits in Demon City's strength more than anything else. Moreover, the difference in strength between them and Demon City prevented them from having any unrealistic thoughts. In short, they were very grateful for Demon City's favor. After all, they had been informed before the operation. As for how to ensure that they would not be affected, that was their own problem. In less than half a month, Uncle Long and the others, who had gone to the Blacksmith's Guild and Alchemist's Guild, returned after completing their tasks. Soon after, the forces that were on good terms with them made full use of the quota given to them by Demon City and brought people to seek refuge. Before coming to Demon City, the representatives of the various factions had been told to behave themselves. Hence, after settling down in Demon City, they were all extremely obedient. The families of these people had also begun to evacuate in secret. For a time, the divine realm appeared calm on the surface, but in reality, it was already turbulent in private with many unstable factors. Thanks on a certain day, Songjung was lying in the garden and basking in the sun out of boredom. Suddenly, he frowned and disappeared from the garden. When Uncle Long and the others saw this, their faces were full of question marks. However, Senior Tsong had always been carefree, so they felt at ease after thinking about it. After Azure left the garden, he immediately appeared in the God Pagoda. At this moment, the God-protecting tower was being madly attacked by the fog. Song appeared outside the tower and asked with a frown, "Little Ripple bitch, are you crazy?" It didn't expect that the old woman would come to its door instead of looking for trouble with it. It was really strange. Just as it thought this, Azure immediately felt that something was wrong. It then saw the smug-looking Fog Phoenix stop attacking and disappear. Realizing that he might have been fooled, Song Danu wanted to chase after Fog Phoenix, but he suddenly found that he was trapped. It knew nothing about the formation, and after a series of random attacks, the formation had no flaws. At this time, Wu Cheng's proud and arrogant laughter came to its ears. "Ha ha ha. Song, don't waste your energy. How could I possibly let you escape after setting it up for so long? You should just stay inside. After I'm done with Lung Ruoxua, I'll deal with you. You want to take care of my girl? Dream on." Song scoffed and then shouted, "Old bitch, let me out, or you'll definitely regret it." "Oh really? I'd like to see how you're going to make me regret this." Wu Xiao provoked. "Old bitch, you asked for this." Azure was completely enraged. He extended his small claw and a huge red flower appeared in it. It was the blood cherry blossom. At this moment, the flower was almost dried up. The entire flower leaf drooped down, and the petals drooped listlessly. As soon as she saw Azure, Blood Cherry Blossom trembled. At this moment, Fog Nightmare, who had already returned to the God Lord's estate, and was using her mind to sense Azure's condition in the spell formation, shouted, "Song, what do you want to do? Let me out or I'll tear it apart." Song threatened, "Don't you dare. You." Ripple Mist was shocked and furious, and she tried to summon the Blood Cherry Blossom. However, no matter what she did, she was unable to contact the Blood Cherry Blossom. It was as if there were thousands of mountains and rivers between her and the Blood Cherry Blossom, and she was unable to reach the end. Damn it. It was obvious that Song was behind this. Fog was filled with hatred. The anger in his heart rose even more. Let Song out? That was impossible. It wasn't easy to trick Song into her formation. If she let it go just like that, wouldn't all her efforts be in vain? However, her Blood Cherry Blossom clone was in the hands of the other party. For a moment, Fog's conflicted heart clenched. Could it be that he would always be controlled by Tsang? Mist Ripple was unwilling to accept this. Just as Wu Xiao was feeling vexed, Tsang, who couldn't wait any longer, had already begun to destroy the flower. As she felt the pain of the Blood Cherry Blossom, Mist Ripple's heart was bleeding. "Wu, Lord Tsang, please spare me. I didn't do anything wrong." The Blood Cherry Blossom, whose petals were torn by Azure in the array, cried and begged. Chapter 2992. The End. 15. Song sneered. "You didn't do anything wrong, but you shouldn't be that old woman's clone. After saying that, Azure's movements became much faster, and Blood Cherry Blossom's cries of pain grew louder and louder. In the blink of an eye, the petals of the Blood Cherry Blossom were all torn off by Azure, leaving only a bare pistil. A pair of teary blood-red eyes appeared in the center of the flower, looking pitifully at Azure. Unfortunately, Azure was a heartless person. He naturally wouldn't have any soft-hearted thoughts about the Blood Cherry Blossoms. Seeing that Fog didn't compromise, Cold One didn't give up and used his sharp claws to destroy the pistil. The Blood Cherry Blossom didn't even have the chance to beg for mercy. In an instant, the pistil exploded and turned into powder that fell to the ground. Ah! Arg! Wuxian, who was in the Divine Master's estate, cried out in pain and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. How detestable! While she was hesitating, Song, that damn guy, had already made his move. The miss was so regretful. Although she had long known that Song was a hot-tempered person, she had never expected that the other party would not be willing to wait for even a moment. If it was in the past, the two of them would at least be able to bargain, but this time, she had miscalculated. His plan had been completely disrupted by Song. Originally, Rhyme had planned to find Lung Ruoxue to make the first move after trapping Song, so as not to waste the great opportunity to trap Song. However, she didn't expect that Song wouldn't follow the script at all, and directly destroyed one of her clones, causing her plan to fail completely. The last powerful clone was destroyed by Azure. This was a serious blow to Fog's strength. However, in this case she would not let Azure out. He also didn't allow anyone to save Song. After making up her mind, Wu Jing decided to continue setting up the spell formation. This time her target was Demon City. Her clone was destroyed, causing her to lose a lot of strength. She naturally had to do her best to delay time so that she could make up for her strength as soon as possible. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were still unaware that Song was trapped. Song was isolated within the array and could not contact anyone. After half a year, the spiritual energy in Lung Ruoxue's body finally became more abundant. She was also fully confident and prepared to fight to the death with the mist ripple. However, she only heard that Song had gone missing after the bracelet. How did Song go missing? Lung Ruoxue was astonished. Senior Song left half a year ago and hasn't returned. Uncle Long said carefully. It should be in trouble. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. No way. With Senior Azure's strength, even Fog Ice might not be a match for him. Uncle Long said in disbelief, but he didn't continue. It wasn't that he didn't want to suspect Wu Xiao, but he felt that that old woman wouldn't be so muddle-headed as to directly fight with Senior Song. That wouldn't do her any good. Shui, let's quickly go save Senior Song. Hearing this, Uncle Long immediately became a little anxious. In addition, he also felt a little guilty. Thanks regretfully. Even though he knew that Senior Song had gone missing, the people he sent out were unable to find him. As such, he didn't know how to explain this to Shui. It was a good thing that Shui did not blame him, or else he would have died of guilt. Haha, none of you need to go out. Suddenly, Wu Ling's voice rang in Lung Ruoxue and the rest's ears. Then they felt an endless pressure engulfing their hearts, causing their bodies and hearts to feel heavy. What did you do? Lung Ruoxue said calmly. After half a year, the God-binding formation I gave you has finally succeeded. Ripple Mist replied with pride. It was the God-binding formation again. Lung Ruoxue thought to herself, looks like this old woman is using the God-binding formation as her trump card. However, that formation is indeed very useful. He just didn't know to what extent Wu Yan had done this time. Even though Lung Ruoxue had such thoughts in her heart, her expression did not change. She asked, Azure is also trapped by you? Not bad. Originally, I didn't intend to use the Great Divine Binding Array against you people. Unfortunately, that hateful song has angered me. So if you want to blame someone, blame him. Wu Yan's voice was filled with the smell of gunpowder. After she finished speaking, her voice disappeared. Shui, what do we do now? Uncle Long and the others didn't look too good. On one hand, they were worried. On the other hand, they could faintly feel their life force disappearing bit by bit uncontrollably. This should be the power of the God-binding formation. Let's go check on the others. Those who are weak, enter the space. Lung Ruoxua also felt that the situation was not good. After surveying the area, she helplessly realized that other than the hierarch experts who could barely withstand the aftereffects of the god-binding array, the deities below the hierarch rank would not be able to withstand it. Without any hesitation, she immediately moved everyone into the bracelet. At this moment, the dragons, phoenixes, and white tigers who were cultivating in the bracelet immediately stopped their cultivation when they noticed the abnormality. After understanding the situation, they were all rather terrified. It wasn't easy for them to get out of the god-binding array, so why were they locked up again? Master, isn't Demon City your territory? How did Wu Xian find a way to set up the great god-binding formation here? Feng Wu asked in confusion. He had once been harmed by the god-binding great array, and it could be said that he had a deep hatred for this great array. That woman is crazy. She actually set up the god-binding array outside the entire demon city, and the array I used a trace of her soul. So, the power of the god-binding array outside the demon city is even greater than the one you were trapped in. Lung Ruoxua explained. Lung Ruoxua had not expected that the fog ripple would do something so crazy. However, she was clear that in order to set up such a large-scale soul-binding array, she would have to pay a considerable price. Whether it was the crystal stones or the strand of soul that the fog ripple had given up, they were all one-time consumables that could not be retrieved again. Apart from trapping them, one of Wu Xian's purposes for setting up this great formation was probably to obtain life force from them. However, it was obvious that she had miscalculated. With green vessels heaven-defying space, how could Lung Ruoxua let Wu Xian's plot succeed? After consoling the frightened beasts for a while, Lung Ruoxua brought the evildoer away from the bracelet. After some thought, she moved Uncle Long and the others in. Although Grandpa and brother were not very willing to go in, they also understood that if they stayed by Shui Er's side at this time, they would not be helping her, but adding to her troubles. In Shui Er's words, the life force they had lost outside would only benefit Wu Jing. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.